As the leader of the Booner Path, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everyone, to Crunch Time Sports. Jeff Iafrate, Booner, Lukas Klotz, and Michael Gentry. It is Thursday, October 3rd. Packed show today. A lot of things to get to. Talking Lions defense, Jared Goff comparisons in the NFL. We'll have Raj on in the second hour to talk some Tigers. We're going to do a little bit similar to what we do, different than like Detroit Lions stock market, but Detroit Lions player grades essentially. Yep. So we're going to be grading the offensive players, defensive players. So a lot to get to today. Boone, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, you sound fine.
All right, perfect. For some reason, I usually can hear myself in the headset and cut out. But hey, I think I'm here. I think I'm good. It's a Thursday night. Beautiful Thursday night. A lot of things going on. I'm pumped up. I had a great day today. How about that? I've been sick for multiple days, working from home, all of that. And something today just hit me around noon. And it was like, Booner, you're back. Welcome back to the real world. And I'm back. I feel good. So I'm alive. I'm ready to go. Thursday night football. There's a lot of things going on. I'm pumped up. Raj is coming on. The Tigers are playing on Saturday. My life could be the Detroit, not even just Detroit or just these teams. The city of Detroit is fully back, Detroit sports. So I'm pumped up. We've got the Booner Path is in fruition on multiple sports throughout the city of Detroit, which I love.
Yeah, no Booner Path for the Pistons yet. But
they do not until what's his name sells the team. I don't even know his name anymore.
You're not giving him the rights to the Booner Path yet. Yeah,
no, dude. We have the DAWGS today. What's up, Arnk? We have my DAWGS today, and I wanted to put them in something with them in it. It was just I don't think they deserve it. Maybe Cade or someone there deserves it, but with the ownership, they don't deserve anything. They don't deserve. We shouldn't even be talking about them right now.
Yeah, not a worthy dog.
You don't want to claim the Pistons, Boone. You don't want that. Might be bad.
I was trying to think of a way to shoot down Tom Gores even more. I just couldn't even think of it. He's that bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Not much to argue with it. Thursday night football, obviously. Who's your guys' picks for tonight? Falcons, Buccaneers.
Who do you think?
I don't know. It's at home. It's in Atlanta.
Give me the Bucs, man. The Bucs are better than the Falcons. I could pick them to win the division. I think the Bucs. They had that one slip up of a game, and last week they dominated the Eagles. They're a good football team. They're better than the Falcons.
Yeah, and I had the Falcons winning the division, but I still think the Buccaneers win this game, and I think they end up splitting later on in the season. But tonight, I have the Buccaneers, especially how they've been playing. I think they've been playing very well. I think it's going to be a Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving type game for their offense. So excited to see.
If you guys want to bet, just go place anytime touchdowns for Mike Evans. That'll hit.
That's a good bet. That is a good bet. I think I'm going to go with the
money line.
I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think they split the series, and they each win at home. So for this one, going with the Falcons tonight. I don't know what the line is, the points. I don't know.
2.5.
I'll check.
Yeah, I'll give me the Falcons to cover. They'll win by 3. So
wow.
It's Atlanta minus 2.5.
Just give me the Bucs money line. I'm living. I'm rolling in a lot of money then.
There you go. And the Bucs have been playing really well. I mean, they have. So it'll be a great game. Hey, welcome to the show, Mike. A lot to get to today. Obviously, we're having Raj on in the second hour to talk some Tigers. Yeah. So that'll be a good one. Also, did you guys see today, real quick? I just want to acknowledge, hey, congratulations, Eminem. He just became a grandpa. Can you imagine that?
Shout out.
Yeah, Eminem just became a damn grandpa. It's kind of crazy to think about, actually. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Saw that today.
Shout out Eminem.
It's wild. Man's a grandpa.
Yeah, I always think about it, growing up, it is Haley that's having the kid, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So think about we were young, and there's probably people in the chat way older than us that saw the progression of Eminem. But when I was growing up, it was I'm the same age as Haley. So it's just it's crazy to see in life you grow, and a guy like Eminem, who's an absolute icon in Detroit, at least for me growing up, a staple of music of growing up, and him talking about Haley and all of his songs, and then now he's he's gonna be a grandpa because of her. Like, that's the craziest progression. Like, life is crazy. Am I like just going off on a weird tangent here, or did anyone else when they saw that they're like, man, dude, we're kind of getting old here. Like, this is crazy.
That's what it is. I was just about to say, we're just getting old, dude. It's getting
nuts. Old. I'm about to be 30 in a couple years. Man.
Huh? I got some time. I got some time until I'm 30. So you know what? We're doing
for you.
Doing all right. We're doing all right. But before we get to a lot of we're getting into a lot of Lions today. Obviously, we're getting to the Tigers in the second half. We'll talk a little college football if we have some time later in the show as well. Talk about those Wolverines squeaking by the Gophers. I mean, but you know, we'll maybe cover it a little bit today if they're worthy. But I want to play this clip of Ahmad Rod talking about Jamison Williams doing the tribute to Calvin Johnson. This is on his him and EQ's podcast. So I want to give credit there. But here's that clip. Let's hear what Ahmad Rod to say about JMO.
You ever notice when JMO scores, he gets like 4 celebrations off at once. This dude would dunk the ball, look around, bro. So he scores. I'm behind him. He's running. I'm like, where's he running? Runs and dunks it, falls down. He gets up. We're ready to celebrate. Like, Demo's there too. He starts taking off somewhere else. He jumps in the stands with the fans. Me and Demo are standing there like, I'm not chasing this. Like, bro, we told James one more time, it's a fine. If he doesn't celebrate with his teammates after his celebration, it's a fine, bro. This fool gets off so many celebrations.
Tough.
He's gonna score again. Like, save it for the next one. Oh, I'll be having so much shit in my head. Like, I gotta get it. It's too hard.
The man's just hyped. Just hyped.
Yeah. He does have some crazy celebrations. I you know what? And I do miss like I know the NFL's kind of cracked down on a lot of it. I wish the NFL would let guys loose a little bit with celebrations.
Can't they? They're allowed to do anything. It's just they can't dunk because one time, I think it might have been Kelvin, bent the field goal post. But so they're like, we just can't have you bending the field goal post. Because they have, to be fair, Jeff, they used to not be able to celebrate at all. I'm pretty sure.
It ain't like it used to be.
I think it's gotten closer to what it used to be. Because I think there was a time, am I wrong? I think there was a time where they were like, no celebrating. Hand the ball off to the ref and get out of there. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think they became a little bit more lenient, but like you can't go like too overboard. It's kind of like a quick celebration and get on. Like if you overdo it a little bit, they're still tossing the flag, but they'll let you celebrate.
I do know this.
It went from the no fun league, no celebrating at all. Just you scored a touchdown, get back to the sidelines to letting them do at least something now.
Because if you used to do any celebration, it was an instant flag, and then they ended up switching it to like, okay, you guys can do stuff.
Because they I believe fined Alan Lazard for doing this.
So, all right, I was watching the Pat McAfee today, and Pat, they cleared this up because there was a guy, I don't know who it was, did the bow and arrow. He did an arrow, and he got a flag for it, 15 yards. And then the NFL came out. No, the NFL came out, and they said, going forward, they told the refs, bow and arrows are good. You're fine. The only thing they don't want is firearms. They said no firearms.
This isn't a firearm.
They said you can't even point. Like they said nothing that's close to a firearm. That's what they said. That's what I heard today. I was watching the Pat McAfee. They said no firearms, but you can do a bow and arrow. They just don't want firearms.
Didn't Jahmyr Gibbs do the firearms in the NFC Championship game?
It might have been a rule that they cracked down on in the summer. I don't know, but I just know a lot of people having it flags for that. They just said. Because I was with you a little bit because I saw the bow and arrow. I'm like, what? And then I was watching the show today, and he brought it up, and they were like, all right, that's a little bit more fair. Because as long as you could do like a bow and arrow or something, like let's not take it all out.
It's like, and how do you like? Aaron Rodgers said Alan Lazard's been doing this for like 5 years, and it's it's just weird. I missed the era where Ocho would propose to the cheerleader with the ball. And then she would say, yeah, like those type of celebrations. And no one's doing that anymore. But
one of my favorite ones is Ezekiel Elliott hopping in the bin. You know what I'm talking about?
The Toys for Tots or whatever. The best one was when Devontae Smith or whatever played them, and he was stealing all the presents out of it. Devontae Smith, that was the funniest one.
Even Tyreek doing the backflip, he took the guy's camera and did a backflip. Like the guy got fired. Like
that's tough. And that was a guy that he got hired into the NFL too.
It's like
it was like a friend of his.
That's hilarious. Like that is awesome. Like that's
There
how
are
you
some dumb
market
rules.
the league.
The Dolphins usually do some good ones. I know, like Tyreek, after he got arrested earlier on in the year, he pretended like he got arrested after they scored the touchdown. I don't know if he got a flag on that or not, but the Dolphins usually do like team celebrations, and they're usually pretty hype.
Yeah,
I
that
enjoy good celebration, man. It's a
I
good
do as
time.
well. Like J-Mo, I mean, celebrate with your team, but never change.
It is funny. They're like, we're just gonna
Never
find
change.
him, like because one thing too, it's cool hearing stories from like NFL players, like, even in the past, like how many fines that they've give each other, like not the NFL, but they just give each other fines, and then they use that money for like a party at the end of the year or something, or whatever they do. I think that's crazy. It's pretty sweet.
Did you guys see all the stuff coming out with Aidan Hutchinson now? I know you mentioned this, Boone. What was this week? I think how he's the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year right now. And that is coming right after he just won this, at least for this month, NFC Defensive Player of the Month. So, I mean, you see the odds here. This was posted on our social media, and he is the favorite at this point in time. He's plus 250, right behind him, TJ Watt plus 340, and then that's essentially the list. Everyone else, there's a pretty big, pretty significant drop off.
It's really just a two-man's race right now. That's about it.
Yeah. I mean, and even not just, and I wanted to put up the other graphic. I mean, the man won NFC Defensive Player of the Month, which is pretty. I mean, if you're talking about trying to win Defensive Player of the Year, this is what you want to accomplish. I mean, this is what you want to. This is a good start to chasing that. And then, of course, it comes after that Monday night game where he had his season best, and honestly, I think it's the most pressures in a game, if I'm not mistaken, this season.
Yeah, 10.
He had 10 pressures against the Seattle Seahawks, which I have the I guess the leader in pressures here. I'm gonna show you guys in a minute, but Aidan is on a tear, Boone. And here, let me pull this up. I got it right here for you guys. So pressure leaders currently in the NFL. Let's get this up for you guys. Okay, here you go. You look at the list. Pressure leaders, Aidan Hutchinson with 40.
Holy.
And then the drop-off, Zach Allen with 23. Carl
That's
Grant.
Crazy.
It's all guys in the 20s, essentially. Michael Parsons, 21. But Aidan Hutchinson has basically double the pressures than everyone else in the NFL. That's basically what this is. So how depending on who you're asking, I guess, however you measure pressures, dude has double the amount as everyone else. So I mean, that's
and Boone, I'll let you go more into detail in this, but I know it's still very early for a player award to call it a lock. But like, if he keeps up with this pace for the entire year, do you think it's even possible? I know it's kind of him and TJ Watt, and that's pretty much all I think it will be until someone else comes out and has like sort of the same game as like Hutch. It doesn't have to be to that extent, but kind of gets them in there. But do you think like if he keeps up this pace, anyone even has a chance with him?
I honestly, I felt like after that 4.5 game, the sack game, and like you start seeing this pressures. Like I'm gonna pull up a graphic too here in just a second. Like he is dominating, and when you start looking at the stats of what Aidan Hutchinson's been doing, the crazy thing with it is like he is the best defensive player in the NFL right now, and you can argue that right now he's the most dominant overall player in the NFL. Like there's no one else that's dominating. Like obviously you could say Josh Allen's had a good year. He's had some slip ups, but like Aidan Hutchinson probably has been the most dominant all around football player out of any position in the entire NFL this season so far. And it is by a margin. Like there is no one at his position, no one on the defensive side of the ball that is doing anything close to what Aidan Hutchinson's been doing. And let me pull up this graphic here for you guys that I kind of found. I was scrolling through Twitter, and I thought it was like interesting. I can't remember. Well, I guess I'll see here when I pull it up. It's at Mob Hoops. A lot of people probably follow him. Does a great job on Twitter, actually. But I saw this, guys. This is crazy. This is nuts. So it's the top 50 edge rushers in the NFL. And it's essentially, you could see on the left side, it's pressures per pass rush per snap, and then pass rush grade. And Aidan Hutchinson is just absolutely dominating. Like there's no one even close to this man and what he's doing right now this season. Like I put this in the notes to get a feel for this, guys, just to feel. I mean, how fast is this guy in MVP odds? Does his odds just start moving up? Like if he would have had like 2 more sacks right now and he would have had like an interception this year, like there's no one in the NFL that's dominating. You know what I mean? Like as much as he is, like his odds in the sports books would just start jumping up. Like has a defensive player ever even touched MVP or been in that conversation? Like I'm just genuinely asking because like when you see a guy that's dominating like this and say, obviously it's only 4 games in. So you have still 75% of the season to go. But when you're looking at this, like, hey, if he does this for 17 games at this rate and this pace, no one's ever like he's probably going to break the sack record if he goes at this pace. And like every single pressure record and every single pass grade, like everything he's going to break. It's like one of the best defensive performances in a career that we've ever seen if he keeps his rate up.
And now here's my concern. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up to you more of just as a conversation. The more I've been diving into Aidan Hutchinson, like the man is having a career year. Okay, there's no arguing, there's no disputing that. The problem is, in my opinion, or it could be a problem, is that Aidan Hutchinson is being potentially relied on too much, and I'll explain. Okay, and this defensive line essentially goes with Aidan Hutchinson. If he struggles, they struggle, which is typically the case for elite players anyway. Like I understand that, but nobody currently on the Lions defensive line outside of him, at least on the other side of him, because DJ and Aleem are really good players, can fill the gaps if he's not getting home. And this is the feeling I have with Aidan. Okay, even with the high motor he has, he is a human being. And if you look at his snap count this season, guys, it is insane. Like I dug more into it. Right now, he's second in the NFL among defensive linemen in snaps played. 248.
Dog.
248 snaps. TJ Watt has 211. Nick Bosa has 197. And Myles Garrett has 175. So he's up there with Zach Allen, who Zach Allen on the Broncos. He's not, he's pretty good, but he's playing he played one more snap more than Aidan. So Aidan is incredible, but he's going to have to play a lot of snaps. In the Seahawks game, he took some snaps off. They gave him a little bit of a break because the first 3 games he was playing essentially every snap. And that's how it's going to be moving forward. And Aidan's done a good job of taking care of his body and staying healthy, essentially. But I worry that it's going to be hard for him to sustain that level of play at that snap count with not a lot of help on the other side of him. That's my worry for Aidan. It's not how he's playing unbelievably, but through a 17-game season and postseason with how much the Lions – that's why I'm pounding the table for pass rush help so Aidan can get a break. So someone else can go in there and be like, okay, Aidan's out, but whoever it is in. You're comfortable they can get after the quarterback. Like the drop-off when Aidan leaves, you just can't take him off the field. And I just worry that down the line, like Max Crosby, I'll give you an example. He's played like 100% of the snaps in 2 games. He's out right now with an ankle injury. Like the more you play at that level, injuries are going to happen. And he's fine. Like he's playing unbelievable. That's my only concern is like, man, he's on this trajectory that is like defensive player of the year. I just hope they get him some help so the guy can take a break. Like just get a breather every once in a while.
I guess I would like to see it through 4 weeks, like in years past, some edge rusher snaps, just to see if like this is abnormal. Because like a guy like compared to different guys, like the Steelers do have in my opinion, a little deeper of a defensive line room than the Lions probably do, and I do get that, but that side of it is tough because then you start looking at the point to where it's like, when does the wear and tear start? At what point? And luckily, maybe Jeff, they were looking at it and they said, hey, we can put a lot on him the first 4 weeks because we do have the bye week in week 5. So we're able to do that to him and we're able to put that pressure on him and he can get a break. And then, you have a fresh restart. Obviously going however many games, what would it be? 13 straight games now coming off a bye, probably can't go at that rate. So you're going to have to find a way. You can't take a week off, but you're going to have to find a way to where it's like maybe a week he's more limited and he's able to kind of take a step back so he can get a break. But I don't know. I think when you're young, like Jeff, you got to think this guy's in year 3. Like he's not a 10-year guy. He's not an 8-year, 9-year. Like he's so young in his career right now. He hasn't had any major injuries. He's sitting back there at the healthiest he's ever been, the best shape he's ever been in his life. he could probably at this point of his career go out there and sustain that snap count through a season. Like this is the time of like you probably have seen TJ Watt early in his career have a snap count like that, or a Micah Parsons his first couple of years before he started getting injured. Like I would think, and I guess we can compare and we would have to go back and look at different years, but I do think like obviously he might not sustain what he's doing right now because it's a historic rate across the board. Every single statistic category, this man is out there gonna break any record that there is. I do think like even if the rate slows down a little bit and say you take a little bit back from him, he's still going to have a historical year. Like that year is still going to be like, who's going to catch him a defensive player of the year? Say he takes a step back and averages 1 sack a game instead of what he's averaging now, over like a sack and a half. Like he's still going to have, it's still going to be massive for him. So that's like my thought process with it. I do agree with you though. It's like, yeah, this rate is insane.
Yeah, and that my only thing with it, and that's why I brought up TJ Watt, but I also brought up Myles Garrett, who is in like top physical shape at 28 years old, and he's played almost, not almost, 175 to 247, I think it is. Let me just double check here. 248 to 175. So, basically an 80 snap difference, and that's Myles Garrett in his prime. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I take TJ Watt out of it. That's fine. Injuries, I get all that. My point being is not that, hey, why don't we just peel him back a bunch of snaps? But I'm just curious at when we get to, game 11 with him playing this amount of snaps, like, yeah, it's his second year, his third year. Yeah, but over a period of time, like it's ideal. Everyone would agree. It's more ideal if you can get, I wish they would have gotten a Judon, for example, that you can have in the game to where if Aidan does take a breather. I mean, we watch these games, we have watch parties. You look at Aidan, dude is gassed, and he's still playing his ass off and getting 10 pressures in a game and playing really well. But there's going to be times where he's not going to be on the field, and you got to at least look at it, who's on the field, and be like, can we get somewhat a resemblance of a pass rush? Can we? And I don't think at this point, if Aidan's not there, they cannot. Who are you going to have out there? You're essentially going to have Josh Paschal and Levi Onwuzurike, I guess, would be the two edges. And I'm trying to think here. Yeah, Houston, no. Davenport out for the season. So that would be the kind of the unit you roll with, which DJ Reader and Aleem are very good. That's the only reason why I bring that up. So it's incredible what Hutchinson is doing. He should be leader for Defensive Player of the Year. It's just something I wanted to bring up as something to watch moving forward for Aidan. Because they're going to have to rely. He doesn't have a choice. They need him to play the amount of snaps he's playing. They just do.
I'm looking on my bad. I'm looking up for some. I'm trying to compare. I'm just looking at like TJ Watt in 2021 right now, just like his snap count when I think he had 20.5 sacks that year, or the 22.5 sack year. And he played week 1, and then week 2 and week 3, it looked like he got hurt in week 2. But I'm just looking at like his first 4 full games that he played. And he played 73 snaps week 1, and then week 2 and 3, he was hurt. And then week 4, 63, 52, and 60. So he played essentially 223 snaps. And Hutch has played 248 edge snaps. So like a 20 snap difference. So like maybe it's a little high to where if you look it up, break it down per game, like that's essentially, 5 snaps per game more. But I guess it just depends the situation and the wear and tear.
Let me give you an example. So I just looked it up. So sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So Aidan Hutchinson in his first 2 years, last year, obviously is this year a little different, but first 2 years, 988 is rookie year, 988 snaps. The next year, 958. So 950 plus. We'll go TJ Watt, his rookie year. We'll go his second year because he started playing more snaps. 900, 935. And then as you go on in years, 855. And I know he was banged up a little bit, but let's go Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, his rookie year, played 500 snaps. Okay, we'll discount that. Played 1,000 the next year. Okay, more than Aidan. Then he played 545. I think he might have been banged up. Yeah, he was. And then he played 758. But then a full season, he played 2 years later, 865. Like these guys, obviously injuries are going to come into play. I get that. But playing every game, they didn't sniff. Myles Garrett did it once. but Aidan's done it now twice.
Hey, I think you're proving my point a little bit more. Maybe we just got even a more big. Hey, we have more of a dog on our side here.
Well, I mean, you better. Yeah, I mean, and the fact that he stayed pretty healthy is actually impressive. I'm going to be honest. It's very
and he's doing it again for a third straight year with even more snaps. So, like, say he gets through this whole year healthy and he's putting up these stats. Like, think about that 3-year stretch, honestly. Like, when it comes to just snap count, like this man is on a different level. You're looking at it and you're like, geez, like this dude no one's ever seen a guy like this before. That's why I do think like he is the best defensive player in the NFL, and like he's in year 3, guys. Like he's just getting started. It feels like, and he's only going to get better. And like Dan Campbell said, like he's just starting to get into his bag right now. He's slowly getting better and better. I'll give you guys the chance. I know I was the one that was on Hutch, and you. The 3 fellas, you guys were still kind of on the TJ Watt. I'll give you guys a chance tonight. I put it in my notes here. I said, give the fellas an opportunity. The door closes after tonight. You guys can come on the Aidan Hutchinson train and say he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, or you guys can stay on the TJ Watt train. I will give you the chance. Because you guys should be lucky I'm giving you the chance now, because I waited until now the odds he's the favorite. I should have only let you guys have it before he was the favorite. So it's up to you guys.
Oh, let's bring in Klotzy. All right, let's bring in Klotzy into here. And so now it's a perfect segue to get Klotzy in here. So Klotzy, how you doing, Klotzy?
Hey, fellas. Great talk. Great discussion by Aidan Hutchinson. Off the hell of a start, but Boone, I'm standing my ground.
Oh, my God.
I just have to
do there. This is embarrassing.
Boone,
wow.
I'm sticking to my guns. Again,
the best player in the NFL right now.
Right now, I'm giving you all the praise right now, absolutely. But I do think that TJ Watt, especially when it comes to playoff time, when the Steelers are like in the hunt, you don't know if they're going to get in. TJ Watt puts that team on his back. I still think he's going to do that again this year. Like I said, Hutch will get one. I just still think TJ Watt, best defensive player in the world right now. Hutch is playing up to that level.
Aidan Hutchinson is. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm saying as far as like entering the season, like who's having the better season? Aidan Hutchinson. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying who is still the best player. Like TJ Watt is yet to be dethroned. That's my whole point of what I'm going to. And I think TJ Watt is still going to be TJ Watt. And I think that wins him a Defensive Player of the Year award, especially after what happened last season.
Hey, hold on. Put the camera on me. Hey, hold on.
Talk to me.
Hey, Boone.
Talk to me.
Hey, Boone, let me talk to you for a second, okay? I thought about this, and through this season, Hutchinson and the how incredible he has been. Now, my big question is, like I just brought up, and Klotz, you were listening about the snap count and just him staying healthy and keeping this level of production, which with his motor, I wouldn't be surprised if he does it. But right now, I can't deny that boy is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. That dude is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. And here is why. It's not only what Hutch is doing, to be honest, it's what TJ Watt just hasn't been. And it's not that he doesn't get double teamed. And I get that. Like he's one of the most highest chip rate guys in the league. But you got to have the production right at this point. Like at least maybe in the mid-season or late season, Watt goes on this 6 sacks in 6 games or 6 sacks in 4 games spree. And it's like Hutch is kind of slowing down. But at this point, I can't deny, like not only is he leading, but the pace he's on, like they're going to go up against the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to get a lot of these primetime games. And if he continues to play the way he's playing, there's no denying. Like hey,
thank you.
Hey, I'm throwing the towel in. I'm throwing the towel in for a while.
Hey, I say this a lot too.
Klotzy, I'm sorry.
One thing that you and I bonded over the last couple of years of getting to know each other was I died on the hill for the longest. Last year, from day one all the way until the awards came out, I was one of the only ones, and probably you too, that was TJ Watt should win MVP, or not MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. And he's the best defensive player in the NFL, the most dominant defensive player in the NFL. No one can touch him. And every single person in the world is, no, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons. No, it's been TJ Watt. But I think right now, Aidan Hutchinson has now entered the conversation, and it takes a lot for me. Klotz, you've known me a long time now. It takes a lot for me. I don't care if it's a hometown guy, for me to say TJ Watt. Someone might have passed up TJ Watt. And from 4 weeks of what I've seen from Aidan Hutchinson, not even 4 weeks, I gave the stats a couple weeks ago, back all the way until like week 14 last year, all the way until now, week 4, week 5 in this NFL season, Aidan Hutchinson has been better than TJ Watt. He's been the most dominant defensive player since TJ Watt, since week 14 of last season. So, like, just looking at that, I'm like, okay, if it was a 4-game stretch, I would sit down and be, all right, Klotz, let's wait a little bit more. I went and got you guys the stats since last season, since week 14, since Hutch started turning it up. And it was a long stretch. It was like a 12-game stretch of football. And that man has outproduced TJ Watt. He has dominated, and he's been the most dominant in the NFL. And I think right now he's the best defensive player. I would argue, you could sit here and argue he's the best NFL player currently playing football.
Look, Boone, you're making a lot of great points. They just simply don't fit my narrative with how I think TJ Watt's still going to win defensive
the narrative.
That's all it is. That's all it is. It's one of those things where
this man's hanging on to the narrative like Clayton too.
It's one of those things where I just have the respect for TJ Watt, where it's just like
I do too. You know I do.
And I know I get what you're saying. Like I just think that you're absolutely right with Aidan Hutchinson being the best defensive player in the league so far this year. Like, I'm not saying that's not true. All I'm saying is TJ Watt is still TJ Watt, and I think he's still played good, but he hasn't played at TJ Watt level yet. He's going to, and it's only a matter of time. And if that doesn't happen, then maybe, okay, we can talk about the discussion that he's on the decline. But right now, I do not think that TJ Watt's that type of player.
Let's do a 30-second timeout. Rewind. What'd you say? Can we get a replay? What did you say?
I'm saying that Aidan Hutchinson
has not played.
Yeah, I mean, normally TJ Watt's like unanimous defensive player of the year if it's not Aaron Donald. That's not the case this year so far. But I think that will change. I think TJ Watt's still in that discussion, and he will have a stretch. He will have a crazy highlight play that seals the game for the Steelers. He will have a 3.5 sack game. He will have another 2.5 sack game. TJ Watt
sounds like someone. Sounds like you're talking about
absolutely, but
this argument's crazy.
How long? What I'm saying is, I don't think Hutch is going to keep up the pace that he's on right now. It's a crazy pace.
It is.
To ask him to keep that up, I think Hutch, in order to do that, I think would have to be like peak Hutch in his prime. Like, I think
he's done it for the last
look at
10 games.
Like Myles Garrett. Like Myles Garrett last year had that crazy start of the season, ducked off, and he had 13.5 sacks. One defensive player of the year. I think Hutch will finish more than 13.5 sacks. But my point is, TJ Watt's a guy that has not stopped playing like TJ Watt. He's still TJ Watt. And I think that's like, I haven't seen enough to say, okay, TJ Watt, count him out of defensive player of the year. Like, we're a month into the season, a quarter into the season. There's still 75% of the season.
You're playing the long game.
Yeah,
dude, he had 8 sacks in the final 6 games of the season last year or something like that. Right. Averaging like almost a sack and a half. And then the first 4 games this year, he's averaging 1.6 sacks per game. So it's like, you keep saying, I need to see more than a 4-game stretch. Like, go back to last, when everything was like Dallas and Minnesota, when everything came down to it, when you're playing for a playoff spot, and then you go into the playoffs and he still dominates and has 2 sacks in the playoffs in the game, has a sack in the second round. Like, dude, he was putting numbers up last year. So like, it's not this is, and Klotz, I love you. It's not a 4, like, that's where I don't like this conversation. This is where the conversation starts to turn. It is no longer a 4-game stretch of football. We're talking about a 10-game stretch of football where Aidan Hutchinson has been more dominant than TJ Watt.
I understand that, Booner. Like, I'm not saying any of that is wrong. What I'm saying is, if we're talking about strictly Defensive Player of the Year award for this year, I'm sorry, those 6 other games don't matter, because if you want to pull up a whole career of TJ Watt, he's got tape on all that that's more productive than Aidan Hutchinson. Obviously, shorter sample size, but you pull up the last 3 years, TJ Watt's been a Defensive Player of the Year candidate every year. He's won a Defensive Player of the Year candidate or award. That's not going to stop happening. Maybe in a couple of years, but TJ Watt is still TJ Watt. And I'm not discounting Hutch. Like, if Micah Parsons was going off, we'd have a discussion about Micah Parsons. I'd be like, no. Aidan's
by the way, I did hand out.
Against the run too.
I did hand out a bet this to start the show. Mike Evans touchdown. You're welcome. Already hit.
Oh, okay, Boone.
Mike Evans tutty, you said, Boone?
Yeah.
handed it out to start
I
the
had
show.
him, I had a lay with him and Drake London, so I'm close.
I guess, Klotz, I get what you're saying. I didn't realize too, by the way, we had so many like Hutch haters in the chat. Crazy.
I hope this doesn't sound like I'm hating on Hutch.
No,
It's like one of those things where it's like saying like comparing like CJ. This is a bad comparison because Mahomes isn't having a good productive year, but like CJ Stroud to Patrick Mahomes. Like I understand why you might say CJ Stroud, but I'm still going to go with
I
Patrick
think it's
Mahomes.
way different.
No, because I think after Aaron Donald, now it's TJ Watt, best defensive player of the year. He's been doing it. Aidan Hutchinson, up and coming, looks like he could be the new face of the league defensively. Same thing with CJ Stroud. But I don't think he's at that level quite yet. So I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes.
I think, and this isn't at you, Klotzy. I just think there's this thing with people where it's like the old man syndrome to where they just don't want to give credit and be like, yeah, this player is better than this player. I get it. I'm with TJ. I like TJ. I've been the biggest TJ Watt supporter. I just think like, hey, guess what? Aidan Hutchinson's right there with him now. Like he's as good as him. And like there's at a point to where whether you say the 4 games or not, over the last year now, you've looked at it and like, if you watch both of their games, they're both making the same plays now. Like Aidan Hutchinson is now there. I think it's like people, yeah, if you want to see 17 games of it, okay, we can wait 4 months. And then if you want to wait that long to do it, but I have seen this man play football like for 10 straight weeks now, 10 straight football games, and he has been as dominant as TJ Watt. So there's like, why am I going to sit here and sit back and wait and be like, oh, I just need to see more? Like, no, he is playing at that high of a level. Like, I'm not taking anything away from that. Like, it is a fact that he has been playing at as high of a level as TJ Watt.
So I want to move on here because I want to talk more about the defense that Aidan's a part of. They allowed a lot of yards on Monday night. And fellas, I want to bring this to you guys about just your and this is the question. Is the defensive performance against the Seahawks a concern or a outlier for them being Super Bowl contenders? And there is now, just to say this on the offense, there's no denying how explosive this offense is and what it can be when it's playing at its best. Despite the struggles Lions fans have had, them witnessing Ben Johnson, ever since Ben took over, this offense has been explosive over the last couple of years. We know that. But the real question has always been, what can this defense do, and what kind of defense can the Lions put out on the field every week? You're right. Can Aaron Glenn squeeze every bit of production out of these guys? And the best defensive game was against the Arizona Cardinals. I guess you'd follow that with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, even though they lost. But defensively, they played really well. But the point is, that's a Cardinals team that you won't see in January, right? And that's a Buccaneers team that I don't look at as Super Bowl contenders. I mean, kind of same with the Seahawks, who also had 500-plus yards of offense, by the way. It's the 49ers. Some would say the Eagles, despite them struggling. They're not playing well. But even in the AFC, the Chiefs, the Bills, right, the Texans, like the Ravens obliterated the Bills on national television on both sides of the ball, defense and offense. So I want to bring this graphic up, and it's an interesting graphic. I'll get your guys' thoughts on it. This is the Lions' pass defense of the last 3 years. Right, 2022, they allowed 245.8 yards per game. That ranked 30th in the NFL. In 2023, they allowed 247.4 yards per game. It ranked 27th in the NFL. And then now in 2024, currently, they're allowing more yards than the last 2 years through the stretch of games. And they're 30th in the NFL. And they allowed 383 passing yards to the Seahawks, which is the most by any team this season. And that's the conversation I wanted to have with you guys. And I have this other graphic just to compare other NFC teams. I didn't put any AFC teams on here. This is just about reaching the Super Bowl. We can have a whole nother debate or conversation about what the AFC looks like. But the teams in the NFC, currently right now, the 49ers, they're 15th in the NFL in pass yards allowed per game. The Packers are 24th, and the Eagles are actually 27th. So they're struggling as well. But you look at some of the competitors, I guess, or the teams you look at and say, okay, these teams will be at the top of the NFC at the end of the year. If you're iffy on the Eagles, that's fair. They're not playing well, so I completely understand that. Baker just lit them up, so I get that. But Packers and 49ers, 15th, 24th. Packers are allowing 218. The Lions are allowing, 250 plus, whatever the number is. So when we talk about this defense, guys, like they put together performances now without Davenport and You're looking on the other side of Hutchinson, and you had Branch out, so you're getting kind of guys back as well if he's on IR. A couple guys are banged up. You just want him. You want him to be able to put together a good defensive performance consistently, and also you want them not only to be good in the secondary, but good against, getting after the quarterback. Which actually, I have this as well, and this is the 2024 team total sacks, which is something we talked about this year before the season, right? Like, how can this team be up there in sacks as a team? That's something we talked about. Currently, right now, the 49ers are 7th. They have 14 sacks. The Packers are 9th. They have 13 sacks. The Eagles are actually 29th, and they have 6 sacks. The Lions have 11 sacks, which ranks 14th. And actually, Hutchinson has 54% of that. He has 6.5 sacks, which is about 54.5% of the total sacks the Lions have. So besides Aidan, they have 4.5 besides Aidan. So, and by the way, the Eagles, these stats tell me more and more about how they're not good. But anyway.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I just want to know, where are these the contenders in the NFC? Is that why you picked those 3 teams?
I just put the names, Eagles, 49ers,
okay.
Packers. Those are the 3 examples I use. I mean, you could go into other teams. Those are the only 3 I really look at as true contenders. Maybe not the Eagles anymore, but you get my point. Your guys' thoughts on all that, and just if the Lions' ability to get in that top echelon of defense this year, be you don't have to be the elite best defense in the league, but you're confident that this defense can kind of get back and not be a bend don't break defense, because guys, and by the way, that happened last year. And what got to them is they faced a very efficient red zone scoring team, which bit them in the ass. You can bend don't break against certain teams, but when you're facing these top level teams, they're going to score on you. That's just what the 49ers did it. They came back, even though Lions were up, they came right back and won. So your guys' thoughts and confidence level in this defense, kind of, figuring it out and putting more of the performances together that we saw, against the Cardinals, for example.
I mean, I'll say this, I think, and especially through 4 weeks, I think it's been such a weird, and I don't know, I guess you guys can agree with me on this. It feels like it's been a weird 4 weeks of football trying to figure out both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively, what's going on with the Detroit Lions. One thing that stands out to me, and Jeff, I've looked at those stats a couple times after the Seattle game, and I'm like they're at the bottom of the NFL again in passing yards given up. That is a problem. If you're trying to diagnose the problem on this defense, the first thing you go to is what's the worst statistical category defensively? It's the passing defense again, and that's been the issue for 2 years now. It's you have to figure that out, because the run defense is always great. The pass rush has been good. The linebacker is good. It's what's going on in the secondary? How do we stop teams just cutting you up and putting up that many passing yards? The one thing that makes me feel a little bit better is that the Lions right now in the NFL are 10th in points per game given up. That to me a little bit. And I know, Jeff, you're the bend don't break. You can't go win a Super Bowl like that. It's tough. I do though believe that to a point, you have to think with the Terrion Arnold, still a rookie, Amik Robertson, new to this defense, Carlton Davis, new to this defense, Brian Branch moving positions. I think there's a sense of the secondaries trying to get a feel for each other, and they're trying to find they're trying to find their identity, I guess is what you could say. And that's what it feels like a little bit with this secondary. Right now, guys, the Detroit Lions, they're leading the NFL in defensive pass interference with 8 already on the season through 4 games. They're averaging 2 a game. And we saw that the defense alone had 9 penalties last week. So this defense, they're doing this to themselves at times. They're backing themselves up. And then I do think there's an aspect, we were talking about it on the postgame Monday night. The offense, the time of possessions, you would think when you're up by 2 possessions and you scored 40 points, you would think that your offense won time of possession. The Detroit Lions had 10 less minutes on offense. 10 less minutes on offense. So that means that your offense they're doing a great job. They're scoring quick. They're going out there and they're having the JMO quick touchdown. They're having these quick touchdowns, quick possessions, but your defense is just out on the field. And they were already especially with the wide receiver core of JSN and Tyler Lockett and DK and K9 out there as well. That's a tough offense to sit there and be on the field for 10 more minutes in your offense. So I think the numbers to a point you could say are a little skewed. You brought up against Matthew Stafford, Geno Smith, guys who want to throw the ball a ton. Baker Mayfield, who had a good game offensively as well. So I think as the season goes on, the secondary gets it together a little bit more. You would think AG figures out these penalties in the secondary, and the secondary with Brian Branch back, like these guys get it down. But if you're sitting there at 10th in the NFL in points per game given up, and you're 3-1, I'm not saying I'm extremely happy because I want the secondary to get it together, but you're 10th in the NFL in points per game given up, and your secondary is 30th. So if they improve at all, think about how good this defense can be. So there's optimism, boys. There's potential, a lot of potential, Jeff.
Yeah,
what do you think,
I
Klotz?
thought you cooked there. The only thing I have to add on is just Seahawks game lost a lot of yardage or gave up a lot of yardage. The one thing that really stuck out was the missed tackles, which led to more yardage. A lot of that has to do with Brian Branch. Like Brian Branch not playing was huge. I think when you look into that, Terrion Arnold, like all the things that he's missing on right now as far as the penalties, the yards given up, like it's all just simple coaching, and he's going to get better. Ife Melifonwu is going to come back. This run defense is so dominant that Geno Smith's having to throw for 55 times, and the Seattle Seahawks are still out there for 10 minutes longer than that. When you look at Matthew Stafford, they just stopped trying to run the ball. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers stopped trying to run the ball, but only gave up 180-some yards to Baker Mayfield. Same thing with Kyler Murray. Like this defense, I know that statistically it might be similar in production when you look at what they were last year and the seasons prior, but the eye test I think is completely different. I think this defense is much better. If you're watching it, you can tell. They don't give up any big plays. What really broke the back of the Detroit Lions last year was the Kindle Vildor, Brandon Ayuk big play. Stuff like that I do not see happening on this defense. They've yet to show to give up big plays consistently, and I think that's going to stay that way. So I'm not worried about this defense, especially when the whole thing with the Lions is the offense needs to be on the field running the ball. And I think with this defense, it's going to allow the offense to run. So it's not the best defense in the NFL. It might not even be a top half when you look at yards given up. But to Booner's point, the points per game is what matters. They're creating turnovers consistently in all the games they've had turnovers. So as long as they keep doing what they're doing now, and that you expect the secondary to kind of mesh a little bit more, Terrion Arnold to get better, Brian Branch, Ife Melifonwu, them coming back, that's going to make a big difference. I'm very confident in this defense, so that it's not something that's going to hold this team back from winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think at this point it's the time for teams to start gelling and figuring it out and improving on both sides of the ball. So you're willing to give the Lions like some grace, of course. Like they showed a great defensive performance against the Cardinals. Like I understand that. My point is I'm trying to look at the big picture. Like, even getting to the Super Bowl, like I brought up some NFC teams, but what about who you're facing in the Super Bowl? Like what if you face, like John brought up yesterday, what if you face the Ravens, on both sides of the ball? Like matching up with those teams. That's why, like, I get your guys' point. It's something I want to bring up because, you beat Kyler Murray, you beat Matthew, you beat Geno Smith, but you're going to be facing Lamar Jackson or, Patrick Mahomes. We'll see with the injuries, but you get my point. Like you go up a level, or even the 49ers late in the playoffs and you get maybe they get healthy at some point. So that's where I'm going with it, is just like, and I don't think they're quite the same as they were last year. Like last year it was really bad. This year it's like like you said, Klotz, and you said this well, Booner, too. They're not giving up big plays and they have a lot of penalties. You just got to hope this secondary, specifically Terrion, can stop giving up PI. Like these PI calls are ridiculous. And the secondary can just gel. And that's basically what I don't want to say it's like all hope, but it is projection. You're like, at some point they're going to play really well together.
I mean, that's what we said coming into the season, is like this secondary is not going to click right away. We're heading into week 5. The Lions are on a bye. They had some injuries going on in the secondary. Carlton Davis even went down, even was not going to win that out of him. That was still like a play where Ennis Rakestraw had to step in. So all these things, they do matter. You saw Kindle Vildor out there for some plays. Like this, when that secondary clicks, it might not be an elite unit, but look at how Kirby Joseph is playing. He's playing at all-pro level. Brian Branch is an all-pro level safety, and I think he's definitely on his way to winning that all-pro safety pretty soon here. So when you look at the corners, it's really the only weakness that you're looking at, and it's Carlton Davis and Terrion Arnold compared to Cam Sutton, Kindle Vildor, and Jerry Jacobs. And that's what I think truly matters. Like, okay, production is fine, but that's where it's like stats, you need the context with them too. And I think that's what truly matters there.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to watch. I mean, even people like Michael says, it's not the secondary. This cornerbacks can only keep up for so long. Like it is both. That's why I brought up the sack graphic. Like Aidan has like 55% of their sacks basically, like, which is good and bad. Like good because it's Aidan, he's playing well.
It does feel like, though, there are a lot of times where the pass rush is getting there. And like I saw a couple plays of Geno Smith today, a couple like film breakdowns of Geno, like the pass rush is there. And Geno's just making a great play. And there's a player wide open downfield that makes a last second move and is sitting there open. And you're like if you guard him for like a half a more second and you're good. And I think it's been like remember Matthew Stafford, how much pressure was on Stafford and he was just getting the rock out so quick. And so I think there is a sense of that. I would say it's more so, and maybe this is just me. I would say more so right now it is the corners over the pass rush. Personally, that's where I would go towards it. And I think it's more so like Terrion kind of still developing and getting into things and figuring this thing out in the NFL. And same with like Carlton getting into a new defense. But I think the pass rush hasn't been like the biggest issue outside of Hutch. Like Levi O's been good. Maybe we do. I still think we need another edge on the other side. We've been saying that for like 4 months now. But either way, you can't be giving up that many yards in the pass game.
Yeah, I mean, at least for their bookend edges between Josh and what Davenport did, they have half a sack. So like Levi, I guess but he's an edge, I guess you can quantify him that. So what does Levi have on the season? I mean,
maybe a sack and a half, I believe.
Which is actually probably pretty good for Levi. I'm not gonna lie to you.
And then like DJ Reader's been playing really well inside in the lean.
But I'm talking about just playing edge. On the other side of Aidan, you have Levi, Davenport, Josh all have 2 sacks combined. Like that to me is like, okay, go get an edge. Jesus. I mean, but Levi's playing well, by the way, and not anything to him. He's playing really well. Sack and a half is great. I think he's second on the team right now in sacks. So nothing to change for him. I want to play a game with you guys regarding Jared Goff. Here, you know what? I did this. I had some fun with this. And Colin did this. All right, Colin did this. And you know what? I tried to recreate this. Okay, look at this graphic. Look at this graphic. Okay, Jared Goff on the left. This is over the last 20 games of their career. Who do you think's on the right?
I already know. I could tell by the outline.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Josh Allen here. You can see the little flow going. You can see the flow going.
So you see the record. Goff has one more win. Percentage 1.8 percentage higher completion percentage. You know he's got base of 400, 600 more yards, whatever, 500 more yards. TD interception ratio. Goff's got 2 less TDs, but 1 less interception. Passer rating a little better. So just the comparison here, okay? So let me show you who that is and see if you're correct or not. So that player is Sam Darnold. No, I'm just kidding. It's Josh Allen. It is Josh Allen, which is kind of crazy, actually. Over the last 20 games of their career, Goff, pretty comparable numbers. Now, the one thing I will not factor in this, and I'm just going to make this very clear, rushing yards. Like that is another dimension to the game. I completely understand that. But that is it's interesting to play this game. Okay. When you look at some of the quarterbacks in the league, guys that you look at, you're like, well, this guy, no doubt this guy's the best or the second best quarterback. I mean, even this comparison, like I'll give you another one that we'll get more into it.
I've known what this one is. This is interesting.
I mean, this one you could probably tell.
This is crazy.
But look at the statistics. All right. Goff, 1 less win, slightly less completion percentage, more passing yards, better TD interception ratio, and a better passer rating. And you I don't really need to even say who it is. Like, you know who it is in that player. And I'm not going to mess around this time. It actually is Patrick Mahomes. It's Patrick Mahomes. That's the player.
This is crazy.
Yeah, and that's the player. So even Mahomes and Josh Allen, the 2 best, pretty, you're not questioning it really. 2 best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Goff is hanging with those guys. Now, here's the part I wanted to mention, and I kind of spoke about it, is the rushing yards, right? Like Jared Goff, he doesn't please the eyeballs of the casual fan because he doesn't have the mobility that those quarterbacks do. He does his job at a high level. And I actually thought about this today. I think there are 20 teams in the NFL that would trade their current starter for Jared Goff. So I think there's 12 guys. There's a couple you could argue, but I think 12 teams would be like, we're good. Like we'll take who we have. It's close, but they'd probably lean with their starter. But 20 teams, that's still 62% or 62.5% of the league. Like, would basically be like, hey, we'll take your quarterback. Like, you're in the 30-40% of the league, area. Like, the people that are essentially comfortable with who they have. You're the 30-40% that are comfortable with who your starter is. Like, and this is the thing that does kind of blow my mind, okay, about Jared Goff. And I do want to mention this. Like, I'm a huge Stafford guy. Okay, I've defended him. And, of course, me and Adam celebrated him winning a Super Bowl. We had to witness him in Detroit before this current regime watch a very talented quarterback. I know, Klotz, you don't like one, but very talented quarterback. Put up numbers. Hey, put up numbers, do special things with his arm talent, but never had the help around him. And now you have a quarterback that has a supporting cast. And now it's a bad thing. Like, that's the thing I don't understand. Like, Les Snead, when Matthew got to LA, surrounded him with a team full of studs, an excellent head coach, and Stafford played extremely well. I know the pick sixes people bring up, but he played really well in the playoffs and helped them win a Super Bowl, which is something that people like to argue Goff can do, correct? Like, oh, Goff can't lead you to a Super Bowl, da-da-da-da-da. Even though he made one, I get Todd Gurley was a big impact, but he's still quarterback of a team that made the Super Bowl. Here's Matthew's stats through that playoff run, but I'm going to take away the Super Bowl run because I'm going to compare up until the NFC Championship game with Goff. I'm going to compare. So Stafford, up until the NFC Championship game, he had a TD interception ratio 6-1. 6-1 and 905 passing yards. Jared Goff in 3 games, 4-0 passing touchdown interception ratio, 837 passing yards. So, he played well in the playoffs, didn't have a turnover, right? And this is the whole thing with Goff. I think you could win with Goff, especially with this team, given you don't have to overcompensate. Given you have the run game, you have the offensive line, you just need and this is why we talked about the defense. You need a defense, a defense that can make things difficult for opposing teams. I mean, you guys remember the Rams had Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, and they acquired Von Miller in the middle of the season, which is something we look at Brad, like, hey, Brad, we're poking, hey, do something, Brad. Like, go get what the Rams did. They went and got Von Miller for like a second and a fourth, whatever, and he helped them win a Super Bowl. He was massive. And OBJ, great point. So that's where I'm at with Goff, guys. I think he's capable. I think for the most part, if you can make a Super Bowl, there are, outliers. I get that, or exceptions. But if you can make a Super Bowl, you can win a Super Bowl, especially if you've been to back-to-back NFC, not back-to-back, but 2 NFC championship games in your career, 1 Super Bowl.
1-1.
I think Jared is capable. I do. And I do think in today's league, mobility is something that is often searched for. I mean, a lot of the elite guys are mobile to some extent. Jared's not. So I completely understand that, like, to be able to extend plays and run for a first down, like it does. It helps your offense. And he has to kind of overcompensate with just having to be accurate, take care of the ball. Like, he can't run like a Josh Allen, even like a Mahomes and these other guys. But he is very good. And like I said, 60+% of the league, I think, would look at Jared and be like, you can start on our team. So that's where I'm at with Goff. But what do you guys think of the exercise there?
I mean, I think it's spot on. I think a lot of people want to go at Jared Goff, and I know one of the things that all these people like, hey, he has the pieces around him. Guys, like, in that 20-game stretch, like another stat, there's some more stats with that 20-game stretch, he's won 15 games. That's the most out of any quarterback. That's first in the NFL. The passing yards he had, whatever it was, 5,600 or whatever, I can pull it up here. I have it on my end too. 5,590. That's first in the NFL. He has 39 touchdowns since the start of last year, including playoffs. That's 5th in the NFL. And then another thing that Colin Cowherd had put in there, big pass plays. He had 82, which is 2nd in the NFL, which is 20 more yards completions. Like, that's this guy puts numbers up, and you can put him up against the best. And then people were like, well, he has everything around him. Guys, let's talk about wins real quick. Jeff, to your point, to win a football game, what do you need? An offense and a defense. You need your defense to be able to step up. What have the Lions had the last 2 years defensively? One of the worst, not even a top 25 defense, essentially. They're like 25th last year or 26th. They're in the 20s. The Jared Goff is still able, since last year, with the 20-something best defense in the NFL. He's going out there and has the most wins as a quarterback. Like, go look at what the Kansas City Chiefs defense was ranked last year. Go look like what the Bills defense was ranked last year. I can guarantee you it wasn't 25th or 26th. And Jared Goff still has the most wins. So, like, I don't care what he has around him. This guy wins football games. And this is the thing when it comes to this whole Jared Goff conversation. I'm glad that he had the game he did going into the bye week so people can stop talking about it and people are able to give him some credit. The thing with him, it's like people are so quick to say, let's move on from Goff. He can't win. He can't do this. Like, who are you going to take right now that's better that can do it? Who's going to lead the NFL in wins? Who's going to lead the NFL in passing yards, be top 5 in touchdowns, go out there and do what he does? And control an offense and control a team and be a leader. Not a lot of people. Like when you put all of it together, there is a limited quarterbacks in the NFL that can do it. That's why you see like guys like Kirk Cousins that moves around, that's on the Falcons, and he couldn't do it in Minnesota, so he had to go try and win somewhere else. Like the guys move. Baker Mayfield had to leave the Browns and jumps around, and he's in Bucks, but he's doing it. But like, guess who beat him? Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. So, like, there's a lot of guys that people want to always be so quick to move on. Jared Goff's pretty good. Like, he's winning. That's all you ask for out of your quarterback. Why would you want to step away from a quarterback that is winning games? I don't get it. I legit, it's mind boggles me. I don't care how many bad games this man has. If he's winning football games, I'm happy. Like, that's what that should be the only stat that matters. And over the last 20 games of his career in Detroit, he is first in the NFL in wins when it comes to quarterbacks. First. That's the only stat that should matter. I don't care who's on your team or who's not. That is the only stat that should matter.
Fair.
I'm with you, fellas, because if you look at it, outside of Patrick Mahomes, who's been the only quarterback winning Super Bowls? Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady. So it's like if you take a look at that where you're using, he can't win a Super Bowl. Okay, neither can Joe Burrow, who I love, who Jeff loves, who Booner respects. Josh Allen, who I respect, who Booner loves, who Jeff respects. You can go down the line. And it's even baffling. Like, I know we're talking about Jared Goff here, but I think it's the same thing when people bring up, like, Brock Purdy, because if you pull up his stats, 13 for 7, 68% completion percentage, 5,400 yards, 35 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, and a pass rating of 107.8. It's like he can move. And people are like, yeah, but is Brock really the quarterback for 49ers? And it's the same thing with Jared Goff. It's like, I don't understand how you don't think that. Yes, the grass may be greener on the other side, but it also may be just absolute dirt that you can't grow any fruit in. So when you look at that, you got to use Jared Goff as just, why move off him? He's a guy that can get you to a Super Bowl. He was a defensive performance away with the Detroit Lions from going to one last year. Would he have beaten Patrick Mahomes? I don't think so, just because how that defense was playing is just Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Steve Spagnuolo. The league has proven that only one team can beat him in the Super Bowl, and that's when you have multiple Hall of Famers on there. When you look at the Rams with Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, Andrew Whitworth, etc., you keep going down the list. Like, you need multiple Hall of Famers to beat him. And there's not many of those going around in the NFL right now, but you could potentially say on the Detroit Lions, there could be some down the road, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Aidan Hutchinson, but they don't get there without Jared Goff. And the way that he's been producing is what you need to do to get there. And mobility-wise, I saw somebody drop in the comments. He keeps doing what he did last Monday night, boys. He was mobile inside the pocket. That's what Matthew Stafford is. That's what Tom Brady is. Yep. That's what you need to be able to do. So if he keeps playing confident inside the pocket and just take an extra second to take another step, make a guy miss, and now find Jameson Williams down the field, Amon-Ra down the field, Sam Laporta, there's going to be more plays made for this offense.
And that's the thing I think people get everyone focuses on mobility, which I do understand. It does help. There's no denying. It does help when your quarterback's mobile.
Sure.
But you have to be able to overcome in other ways. I think Jared does that. Like you mentioned, Matthew, these guys that aren't mobile, but they have arm talent, or some actually, even throw up a guy like Tom Brady, who I know is like the exception, and or Aaron Rodgers, like the Hall of Famers. They've never really been mobile, but they make up for it in other ways. And that's kind of what Jared does. He's not Tom Brady or he's not Aaron Rodgers, but he does make up that he what he lacks, he makes up for it in other ways. So he does a good job of that. So yeah, he is disrespected. I think he is a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League.
I think a lot of people, there's just a lot of people who look at the Josh Allen and look at the Patrick Mahomes, and they're like, we want that. Like we need that. We want that. Guys, 2 teams in the NFL have that. And you have to find a way. If you don't have that, how do you win? And you have a quarterback that can do that for you. Like, you have a quarterback that is proven to be able to win. So why take a step back and go away from that? Like, your franchise is taking a step backwards if you move down or you go at Jared Goff. That's why I hate when he has a bad game, all of these people who go at Jared Goff. Like, dude, he's your franchise quarterback for the next couple of years. You have to deal with that because he's going to win you games too. So, like, when there's the down moments, I don't want to hear you complain, because you're going to celebrate the moments where he wins you a football game. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying here? Like,
Yeah.
let's he does an elite job at what he does. It's like, look at a different sport. Like, everyone doesn't have a Steph Curry, but that doesn't mean other teams can't win because they don't have the greatest shooter of all time. Or not everyone has LeBron, but other teams find a way to win in their own style of football. That's just like what the Lions are. They have their own style. They have their own leader. They have Jared Goff. He's not the Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, but he's Jared Goff. He's elite at what he does.
Yeah, well, you know what? It is 9:00, Boone. You want to get to these player grades?
Let's do it. Does someone else want to name them off?
I can do it. I don't mind doing it. So we're going to go through offense and defense, and I'm going to give you guys players. You give me a grade and why. Okay, we'll start on offense. Just through 4 games so far. So we'll start on offense. We're going to start with the coordinator. Let me put. You know what? Let me put some music on. All right, hold on. No, I can't do this. Let me put a little music on. Let me put a little.
This man's
music
trying to set the mood in here.
Set the mood a little bit.
Do you want to go first or second before we go?
I'll go second. I'll let you go. You.
All right, Klotzy, Ben Johnson. What grade will you give him for this season through 4 games so far?
Through 4 games, I'm going to give him a B+, because this offense, I think, until the last Monday night, was very shaky. You saw Ben Johnson, especially when you see Jared Goff throw for 50-plus times. That's an issue. I think that game, you could give Ben a D for that. Look how they played against the Rams. It was all right, but in the red zone against the Buccaneers, don't like seeing what he's doing. So, Ben Johnson, very good offensive coordinator, the best offensive coordinator in the league. So you got to hold him to that standard. Ben Johnson has been much better than what he's done through these stretch of 4 games. So I'm not going to give him A. I'll give him a B+.
Yeah, I'm just going to go B. I went straight B. That was my grade for Ben. I think that the slow start, I would have given him like a C at the time. And then what happened on Monday night bumped him up to a B. He turned in some extra credit before the bye week, and his grade went up. So I'm going to give Ben Johnson a B. I think by the time you get through Dallas in these next couple games through Minnesota, if that offense is playing like it did on Monday night versus Dallas and then in Minnesota, he's an A all of a sudden. But I do think there were some struggles. There were some issues, some questions for sure. So I'm going to go B.
I'm going to go B as well. I'm going to go B. I think this year you've seen highs and you've seen lows, right? You see the Cardinals game in the first half looks great. Second half, can't really get anything going. The Rams game, a little shaky. Bucs game was terrible. And then, of course, Seahawks game, explosive. So I'm going to go with a B for Ben Johnson. Next player on the offense, Jared Goff, the quarterback. What grade would you give him, Klotzy, for this season?
Yeah, I gave Ben Johnson a B+. I'm going to give Jared Goff a B, just because Jared Goff's a guy that I think, not the pride of Jared Goff, because I think you can't hold him to that. Quarterbacks are going to turn the ball over, but Jared Goff, through those first 3 games, was turning the ball over just too much. I understand he was the most efficient he's been through his whole career on Monday night, but kind of same thing with Ben Johnson. Like, Jared Goff had a very shaky start to start off the season. We all expect him to turn it around as well as I do. But through that first 4 games, you cannot deny that Jared Goff was not the best. He had some good moments, but he also had the bad, kind of like you're saying about Ben Johnson. So I'm going to go with the B.
It's weird. I already have my grades written down, and they happen to all be just one lower than Klotzy so far. I'm going to B- for Goff. The game that he had, I'll say this, the first half he had versus the Cardinals, and then the game he had here in Seattle, unbelievable. A+ performances. But the game in versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and struggled at week 1 versus the Rams in the second half of Arizona, that brings you down. Those were like D and C performances. So I think they averaged out to me. I would go B- there. I think what he showed on Monday, and if he keeps improving and getting this, and you guys know me on Jared Goff, big fan of Jared Goff. But I'm saying B- with this one. I think that's a fair grade too.
I actually gave him the same grade I gave Ben Johnson. I think in partly they're kind of in lockstep. Like, I gave Ben a B. I'm going to give Jared a B. You know, Jared, Seahawks game, perfect, raises the grade. Buccaneers game lowers the grade. Arizona game, first half played well, second half didn't. Rams game, played all right. So it kind of balances out. I think you just give him a B as of right now. So we're pretty close with all these grades so far. Next player, Jameson Williams. What grade would you give him through 4 games so far?
I'm going to give him an A. I can't give him an A+ because of the one catch performance. I think that's what you got to do. You got to show up in all 4 games. And it's not like he was playing terrible. It's not like he didn't have an impact. He's getting other guys open during that performance. But he's been balling out. So I don't want to short sell him there. Jameson Williams has been more than I expected coming into the season. I think there's this real shot at him hitting 1,000 yards. I already know he's on track to do that. I said he was going to be a guy that got 700-800, get a couple hundred on the ground, and maybe get 1,000 total scrimmage yards. But he can get more than that. He can get more than 1,000 total scrimmage yards because he's going to get 1,000 total receiving yards looking into it. He's getting in the end zone. He's going through all 3 levels of the field when it comes to short routes, medium routes, and deep routes. And he's catching the ball when it's thrown to him. He hasn't had any crucial drops yet. So Jameson Williams has been a stud. I'm going to give him an A.
I'm going to Klotz. I have the same grade written down. I have an A. I think he's been unbelievable. He did have that one performance again, that the one catch. I still think even then, though, his blocking and everything has been unbelievable. Like he's been doing when he's not getting catches or getting open, he is blocking at an elite level. He's been one of the best players all around, in my opinion, on this Lions team when it comes to not just his take away his yards, just as a teammate, as a player. Blocking, everything that you need to do as a wide receiver, that man does it. And then J-Mo's had one hell of a start to the season. I'm going to go an A for J-Mo.
Damn it. Why do we keep agreeing? I have A. I have it written down. I have A as well for J-Mo. It's pretty simple. Don't need to really add much to it. Next player, Sam Laporta. This one, now we're getting more tricky ones. What would you give Sam Laporta through 4 games so far?
This is just tough because he's been banged up. But if I had to give him a grade, I'd give him a C just because he hasn't been the Sam Laporta that we all expect him to yet, granted because of injuries. So I think that's the only thing you can really hold to because, I mean, he had a good showing last week, but it was 4 catches. We expect Sam Laporta to be in the end zone by now, but he hasn't been a liability. So I'm not going to go lower to like a C- or even a D. So I think C is perfect for Sam Laporta. And obviously I think he's going to increase that throughout the season once he gets more incorporated and gets healthier.
What did you give him, Klotz?
Gave him a C, Bill.
He's like,
right, I gave him a C+ in mine. In my book, I gave him a C+.
Now.
Yeah, I win a C+. I think it's C+ and C is almost the same. I hope one thing I'm really looking forward to in the second half of the season is I do hope Sam Laporta kind of turns it up another notch. Like you started to see it a little bit this last game, and you've seen those stretches a little bit. I want to see that more consistent out of him. And I know the JMO weapon and all these different weapons that are added to the offense. I just want to see Sam Laporta get back on track. Like I want to see first team All-Pro Sam Laporta out there going forward for the next 13 games. So I'm going to go C+. My prediction is he's going to be like a B+ or an A- by the end of the season. Like I think he turns this thing up a little bit. Like, hey, take it up a notch, Sam. Come on, let's go, Sammy.
So this one was tough to grade. I'm going to give him a B- because I although he has not been Sam Laporta quite to the level like he should be at an A. I don't think it is his fault. Like I think his play, he can only control what he can control, and he was open. There's games where he's open, he's not getting fed. And the other thing, I think his blocking has been very good. So I bumped his grade up a little bit. So I gave him a B-, so just a little bit more than what you, Booner, I guess. You had a C+. Just because I think he's helped out in other ways, and partially I don't think he's gotten involved as much as he would probably like. But that's the reality. We'll move on. Offensive line. What grade would you give the unit as a whole unit, offensive line this season?
I'm going to go with an A-. I think early on they looked shaky, but after the performance without Frank Ragnow and just how they've been consistently when they've been asked to run the ball, they've been able to do so. Pass rush has been a little inconsistent, but I think it looks even uglier when, again, we talked about it, but when you have Jared Goff back there, you're going to give up more sacks compared to guys around the league. When you look at that, how they are in run blocking, it's still the number 1 offensive line in the league. They've been shaky, but they definitely haven't lost that many games. So I know they were rough early on, but like you look last week, the last 2 weeks, they've been absolutely dominant. I think they're the reason that this team is 3-1 right now. So I'm going to give them an A-.
Come on, Klotzy. I'd put out an A- as well, brother. We're like one off. We're literally one off on every single one. Yeah, I went A-. I think even like when Frank goes down and Yodi. I was actually trying to say his real name there.
I was gonna try.
And it just like absolutely shook me for a second. I was like, no. When Yodi came in and Graham moved over, like they've been really good. I think maybe week 1, or was it week 1 or week 2 where they struggled a little bit, and you could say but they're the reason you're sitting here 3-1. They're the reason you have like this running back duo. I think is unbelievable, but they stepped up because you have this offensive line that you have. They protected Jared Goff on Monday night. They have been fantastic, and they only are going to get better and better and better. Kevin Zeitler, he's been pretty good. Like he's like a top 10 at his position, his PFF grade. I think most of those guys are. Taylor Decker maybe struggling a little bit, but I'm sure he'll get back on track. I give him an A-.
So this is where we disagree. I'm going to give him a B+ because
wow.
I'm going to give him a B+ because if you guys didn't know, Jared Goff, he's been sacked more times through this stretch of games than he has the last 2 years by like 2 sacks. But still, worse at least through the last 2 years. But what helps them is they're 6th in the league in rushing, which helps them. And that's incredible. And they're still great. And they're still the best offensive line. So I don't think the pass protection's been as good. Like he got sacked like 3 times against the Seahawks, and they were out 3 defensive linemen. So like I get they didn't have Frank, but that he should be clean pretty much the entire game. I'm going to give him a B+ though for the offensive line.
Bro's hating.
2 more. 2 more. Running back duo. Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery. You could even give a grade for each or give one for both. Who cares? But what do you think, Klotzy?
A+ for each. A+ for each. I mean, when you ask to give these guys to make plays, they simply make plays, and they're both on my fantasy team. I start them weekly, and I have a smile on my face at the end of each Sunday, and in this case, Monday. These guys are, without a doubt, I would say, at least over the last 15 years, the best running back duo that we've seen. And I think when you take what David Montgomery can do and you blend it with what Jahmyr Gibbs can do, there's no stopping it, especially behind this offensive line. They have not had 1 week where it's like, ooh, they didn't really look good. Outside of the game where Jared Goff threw 55 times, when you gave Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery the ball, they produced. They've been outside of the offensive line, especially when you look at how Jared Goff and Ben Johnson started out the season. The reason you're in games again, because this defense has been carrying, but the offense has been allowing teams to stay off the field, and they've been putting up points mostly on the ground. So this backfield, A+. They've met my expectations and a little bit more throughout the season.
Wow. All right. I didn't go A+. I just went A. I thought A is really good too. I don't know why. I probably should have gone A+.
This guy's hating.
No, not hating at all. I think like, yeah, I should have gone A+, I guess. I have no reason to. I don't know why I did A instead of A+, to be honest. There's literally no negatives with this running back duo. D-Mont's been incredible. Like if I had to put one above the other, I'd give D-Mont an A+ and Gibbs an A. So maybe that's where I could say. But no, not at all, dude. They're both unbelievable. But that would be like my only thing. But outside of that, this has been a great running back duel, the best in the league.
I'm gonna go A+ as well. I'm not much to add. I agree with you guys. Next player, final player in offense, Amon-Ra St. Brown. What grade would you give him through 4 games?
This is tough. I feel like it kind of goes back to like the Sam Laporta, where it's like not even his fault because Sam Laporta is dealing with injuries, but Amon-Ra St. Brown again has been de facto of this offense and kind of struggling. When you look how he had the week 1 where he really didn't do much. So I'm going to go Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm going to give him A-. I can't give that man a B because it's not like he's been bad. He struggled a little bit against the Rams, but they did everything in their power to shut him down. Like that was their main goal. Try to stop the run, which they couldn't, and shut down Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown has still been Amon-Ra St. Brown. I really have nothing negative to say against him. I think he hasn't been as productive as what people thought, but eye test, it's still Amon-Ra. So I'm going to give him an A-.
I went B+. I went B+.
There we go.
I went B+. I didn't. This is like nothing negative to Amon-Ra. He had the week 1 game, which was tough, and I don't know if that was on him or not. He's been slowly getting back, and like he has 2 touchdowns on he's been really good. I just expect the JMO has more yards than him. I expect Amon-Ra to be the one here and to have the 1,500-yard wide receiver. Like I think if I didn't expect him to be a first-team All-Pro wide receiver, I would probably give him an A for what he's been doing. I expect him to go above and beyond and do more. Maybe that's because there's more weapons on this offense, so he might not be doing that. But I think,
You see that toe tap on Monday night?
Toe tap? No, listen, I think it's been great. And I just think he's going to be an A by the end of the year, guys. Like Amon-Ra's just starting to get into his bag like right now.
But this is through 4 games.
But through 4 games, I think we're honest, B+, and I think within the next couple of games, he's going to get up to an A quick.
I'm gonna listen.
All right, you can get it off your chest.
I'm gonna say this. Okay, I gave Sam Laporta a B-. He has not, he's Sam Laporta, but just for whatever reason hasn't quite gotten to that point yet. I expect a lot out of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay, I expect a lot out of that man, and it's not his fault. I'm not saying it is. But just based on what we've seen, comparing him to Amon-Ra St. Brown of last year, he looks the same, but the production doesn't really match it, given the offense and whatever. So I'm actually with Booner. I'm going to go B+. I didn't give him an A because, I just think at this point, I can't give him an A. Like last year to start the season, he'd get an A, but this year, I can't give him an A. All right, let's get to defense. We'll get through these. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator. What grade are you giving the man through 4 games?
Gave Ben Johnson B+. And Aaron Glenn has been the better coordinator through the 4 games. But I'm going to give him a B+ as well. I think the even tier, just because Aaron Glenn, he doesn't have the expectations of Ben Johnson, but through the first 3 games, defense has been stepping up how you need it to. And then you have last week now, no Brian Branch, no Derek Barr, no Marcus Davenport. But when you look at it, again, giving up no big plays. Outside of last week, again, because no Brian Branch, they've been tackling very well. I know they missed a couple in the Rams game, but that was not like a glaring point. It was early on, but they fixed it. Aaron Glenn, people can hate on him because they're going to look at the stats, but when you look at how this team is actually being coached, Terrion Arnold has not been getting burnt. He's just been in phase, and he's finishing that last phase of the game of tracking the ball, tracking the wide receiver. Kirby Joseph, playing like an all-pro. Brian Branch, all-pro type of caliber player. Carlton Davis has been struggling a little bit, but he's in position to make plays. Alex Anzalone playing his mind off. Jack Campbell just came off of his best week. Aidan Hutchinson, Defensive Player of the Year star. DJ Reader just got a sack, and now he's proving that he can be a real piece of this defense. So Aaron Glenn, I don't get why people dog at him so much because they're acting like he can go out there and make these plays for him. A perfect example is like Kirby Joseph had a wide open blitz against Geno Smith last week, and he just missed. Aaron Glenn calls the perfect call. But a lot of the times these defenders are inconsistently not making these plays. Aaron Glenn, his scheme has been amazing, but I think just right now that secondary is not executing how you want it to. It's the best run defense in the NFL. So Aaron Glenn does need his flowers. I'm going to give him a B+.
All right. I'm going, just pulled up my notes here. Going B-. I'm going to go B-. I think there's different parts of this defense that are really good and different parts that are really like not bad, but like, hey, we went over it earlier in the show. Like the pass defense has been atrocious, so bad. But you're sitting there in the top 10 in points per game given up. So I think either way, I think AG has done what he can, and I think as the year goes on, it's weird because I think the conversation with all of this, especially in the bye week, it's like, hey guys, it's such an early bye week. Like guys are going to get better and better and better. I think it's the same thing with AG in the defense to where he's a B- now and maybe he'll be a B+ by the end of the year, but it will improve at some point. But I think a B- is a fair grade for a guy like AG so far with the defense that you've had.
Yeah, I have the same grade as you, Boone. B-. I gave Ben a B. I got to give him a B-, especially after Monday night. It's tough. That's why I hate it through 4 games. But I'm going to give him a B-. I think it'll go up given the secondary Rogel. I still have questions about the other side of Hutchinson, so it's like partially personnel, but he's trying. So maybe I'll even bump that. I wouldn't mind bumping it a little bit, but I just can't give him a super high grade. But next player, or this time we're going to go to players. Terrion Arnold, the rookie. Give me a grade. How's he played through 4 games?
I'm going to give him a C-. I think he's been struggling a little bit. Obviously, he leads the NFL in pass interference, so that's not going to give you a B. I'm sorry, just off that fact. He's been good against the run, but he's not a bust by any means. I think when you watch him, he's going to be a good NFL player. He stays in wide receivers' hips. There's multiple times where he's targeted down the field, and the wide receivers can't make the play because they're blanketed. But Terrion, he hasn't looked like a first-round pick yet. You can see the kind of the glimpses of it, but he's definitely struggled some. So I think he's had some good moments, some bad moments, but there's been more bad moments in my opinion. But he's going to improve. But right now I'm giving him a C-.
I went C+. I went C+ for Terrion. I guess you could go C-, C+, either 3. I think that's a fair grade. There's been some positives, guys, from Terrion.
Yeah.
Like Terrion has showed a lot of like really good positives, but at the same time, like the penalties, and there has been some plays that he's given up. But I think C+, like right in the middle, to where he showed big plays, and he has showed plays where he gets beat and he gives up penalties. So I think right in the middle right now, a rookie. I don't think like a C+ is a bad grade for a rookie.
Yeah, I'm giving that man a C-. I'm sorry. Like the PI call, the penalties, it's too much. Like are you willing to give grace to the man? I think he'll be a very good player, but we're through 4 weeks and the penalties are they're still consistent. Like there's not really an excuse at this point. So I'm going to say C-. I think he's been fine in coverage, but the penalties, man, they're killing the Lions defense. So I'm going to go C- for Terrion Arnold. Now the next player, we'll go Lee McNeil.
Oh,
yeah, because I was going to do like Hutch, but like okay,
that was my only A+. That was my A+. The only A+ I gave
okay,
out.
Hutchinson. Can we agree? All agree A+. Can we agree there?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the only A+ I was going to give out.
Can we agree? Kirby Joseph A+.
Yep.
I gave him an A.
Okay, so AA+. Okay, Brian Branch. We'll do Brian Branch.
We'll give him an A.
I think an A as well. That's a quick
So,
one.
yeah,
I
that's
think
why
the safety room is an A.
Aleem McNeil. Now this is an interesting one. Aleem McNeil.
You guys might not agree with this, but for the expectations we had going in, I'm gonna give him a C+. Okay.
Wow.
Now, I think does he have half a sack?
I hate Salim.
I think he's where it is he's been good against the run, but as far as getting to the quarterback, he's definitely been disappointing. I don't think he's a bad player by any means. I think that he will start getting the quarterback through the first 4 games, though. You haven't heard his name called that much. I understand, but that's sometimes not always a bad thing because he's eating up blocks. But you expect to leave to make more impact plays. I think we're all expecting that. I think he's been a guy that we expected to step up more. He's proven that he's a veteran. He knows this game. Like, this is not his first season in Detroit. I think I would have thought he had the ball rolling by now. It's been disappointing, but he's still a good player out there. So give me a lead, or give me a C+. My fault.
Yeah. What do you think, Boom?
C+ is kind of crazy. Listen, Aleem. The thing with Aleem is everyone had the expectations for him to get sacks. That doesn't mean because he hasn't gotten sacks doesn't mean he hasn't been playing well. If you watch some film on Aleem, this man dominates every single time. Like he blows the offensive line up, blows them up. And he is opening up so much more for other guys. And the same thing with DJ Reader. I would give Aleem a B. I would just say a B is fine. And it's just he's been average. He's been good. Yeah, you want the stats that come with it for sure. But like he's been great in the run game. That's one thing you really want out of Aleem McNeil. There's a run game. He's been great in the run game. And number 2, he's just because he's not getting the sacks doesn't mean he's not being good in the pass rush. He's still out there dominating it and giving you different lanes, opening up different things for Hutch. So I'm gonna go B.
I'm gonna go B-. Okay.
Oh, this fucking guy. He says the glaze and goes from 1 under.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B-. He would be at a B+ if he was more of a consistent pass rusher. But against the run, the Lions are one of the best run defenses. He's a part of that, so I'm gonna give him a B-. I can't. So that's where I'm at with him. Levi O. Now, what do you got? What grade would you give Levi O?
The Levi O narrative I had coming into the season has just been absolutely decimated. There's no Levi O narrative that I had that was not proven wrong in every aspect of it. I think he's been better than Aleem McNeil thus to this point. I'll give Levi a B+. I don't think he's an A, but I think he has the most sacks outside of 8.
Man hates Levi O too.
I did. Going into it, I thought Levi was going to be a cut candidate, and he's been the second best defensive lineman for the Lions, in my opinion, so far this year. So I'm going to give Levi O a B+.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I had B+, and I was always big on Levi O since the start of training camp. He's been great. Or I would even switch it to an A-. Like he's been with probably more than anyone expected. So he's been above average for sure for what we expected him to be. Levi O has been really good. A-.
Yeah, well, I'll go B+, because again, given the expectations, he's been better than I expected. And for that, you get a good grade. So I'm going to go B+. Next player, Carlton Davis.
That's another one where it's like expectations were high. I'm going to give Carlton Davis just a C because even in the run game, he hasn't been that good. He's given up probably more big plays than expected as far as what we've seen to the lines. A lot of the big plays that were penalties have been because of Carlton Davis. He's had a lot of tough assignments, but I thought he was going to step up more. I think he will get better. But, I mean, Jeff, you even brought up the stats last week. Carlton has not been playing that well. I thought he had a good performance against DK Metcalf, but there's still plays where he got. There's been good, there's been bad. I think he's overall, as far as a cornerback one this year in the NFL, has been average, so I'm going to give him a C.
I just had maybe I look at average. I have just like a B. I think Carlton's starting to we know what he is, and against, he has had a couple tough plays that he's given up, but I think he's been fine. Do you guys think Carlton Davis has missed a ton of tackles this year? I would love to see this. I would love to see the stat on that.
Not missed, but I think he's definitely had points where the Kenneth Walker run that went for a touchdown.
That's tough.
In the corner,
Yeah.
you got to keep your contain, and he bit way too far on the inside and let a wide open cutback over the pylon. So
Yeah, I
I
feel like when it's came his way, he's made the plays. And there's been times where he's given some up, but I would just say B. I don't think he's been terrible, that bad.
So I'm going to go C+. I mean, given he hasn't been awful. He's better than who they had last year.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been Carlton Davis and it is a new scheme. I'm willing to give him grace because he's a pro. He's been in the league for a while. But he's definitely played better with Tampa. Definitely played better. Even last year played better. So I'm going to give him a C+. I think he'll improve. He's like DK, you nailed it, Lukas. DK made some great plays, but also got. He's kind of been back and forth. So I'm going to go C+. Last one, the linebacker core, Anzo and Jack. What grade would you give? And you could go Anzo 1, Jack, because I know that you probably grade them differently. But
yeah, overall, I'd probably give him a B+ if you're averaging it out. I think Anzo, I think he's been an A. I mean, obviously he got hurt. He's come back from a concussion, so he didn't play his best ball last Monday. But when you look at through the first 3 games, he was a monster. And Jack Campbell had his best game of the year. And probably overall one of the better games of his career. And I'll give him a B. So when you look at that, I think when you look at him against coverage, it doesn't look that bad, but I do think he can definitely improve in coverage given where he's drafted, the expectations for him to make that jump. So as an overall, I'll give him a B+. Anzo, I'll give him an A. Jack Campbell, I'll give him a B.
I would give I'm going to go duo, A- for both of them. I think the linebackers have been good. And if you want to add in Rodrigo to that, Derek Barnes before he went down, I think the linebacking crew that Kelvin Shepard has going right now, A-. They deserve a pat on the back. I feel like they've been good. Yeah, there's been times probably in coverage you could say maybe Jack has struggled a little bit, but when Anzo's down, Jack stepped up, and Anzo's been consistent when he's in. Jack yesterday or on Monday, I apologize, has had probably his best game. He looked really good on Monday night. So I would have to go A-. And Rodrigo's stepped up big time. He has been very, very good. He had the sack on Monday as well. And he constantly, it was crazy that last year his role got reduced so much because even his rookie year, he was constantly making plays down the stretch when they went 8-2. He was everywhere. And he's really, he produces. So I would say A- for that crew as a whole.
I'm gonna go Anzo. I'm in agreement with you, Klotzy. I'll go Anzo A, Jack B. So I don't know what the average of that would be. Probably A- to your point, Boone, or B+, whatever. I thought they've been very good together. Anzo's obviously been the better linebacker, but Lions are lucky to have both of them. But that'll be it. That's the all the grades for the players.
Oh yeah,
and, so we're gonna have Raj join in a couple of minutes. I guess we before we get Raj back, we'll bring in Mike and we could chop it up with Mike for a little bit. Maybe we can get to Booner's Detroit Sports Dogs of the week.
Should we wait for that just so we have enough time to do it?
Yeah, I don't know. Raj hasn't joined yet, so
I want to give 2 minutes. I don't want to give all 5 away and only do 2, and then everyone sees the 5, and then we can't go back to it if everyone sees all 5. That's a problem. It's a problem over there, GCJ.
I think you'll be good, Boone.
We won't be able to go back to it.
Or we make Raj, if he joins, make him wait a couple minutes because he's not here now currently.
It's up to you guys.
What's
up to you guys?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Give me 5 minutes.
Let's get into your dogs of the week. All right, hold on, Boone. Who do you got?
I got a bar, Klotzy? That used to be your thing.
Yeah, he didn't like it when I did it last time.
Yeah,
so you
just
got
do your thing.
I don't got it, Boone.
Come
I
on,
got
just
it.
a small one, just a little one.
You can't
I
put him
don't
on the
got it.
spot like that.
Give me a
Yeah,
little one.
See, no, I can't do that either.
He said, "Bark for me, bark for
I
me."
was Boone, remember what you were talking about at the office the other day where you're just like, I'm not barking.
Yeah, but that used to be legit your thing. Like you used to,
That's what I'm saying.
you were the Bart guy.
Hey, it'll
Yeah,
happen.
hey, it's the
That's
bark guy.
unbelievable.
It's
That's
not something
unbelievable.
that's forceful.
You were known as the ball knower and the Bart guy.
Yeah,
Like
he-
you're like
I get it,
people
Lucas.
used to
You
come in
can't
the
force
chat.
it.
People
It's
used to
gotta
come in
come
the chat and be like,
organically.
"How about this guy that barks?" Or like in Twitter, they'd be like, "Who's that guy on the show that barks all the time?"
yeah, he Klotz kind of changed, didn't he?
All right, let's talk about it. Booner's Dogs of the Week, sponsored by Real American Beer, the best beer on the market. Go get some Real American Beer. Hey, the Real American Beer Booners, Detroit Sports Dogs of the Week
Yep.
at number 5. Not even a person, not even a human. The dog this week at number 5 is the city of Detroit. The city of Detroit. The Detroit sports teams, they are officially back. Detroit right now, guys, has some of the best sports in all of the country. It might be the best sports city right now that there is. Name me a better sports city than Detroit right now. You have Michigan that just won a national championship. You have the Detroit Lions who went to an NFC championship, and they're about to go to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. You have the Detroit Tigers who are on this amazing run, who are going to go they're going to go win the World Series. You have the Red Wings who are going to make a Stanley Cup run this year. And you have all those teams right there. I'm not going to name any other teams, but right now, Detroit is one of the best sports towns. We have been waiting for this, guys, for over a decade, for everyone to be back. For the Wings to be back, the Tigers to be back, the Lions to finally be doing something. All these teams are doing something. One of the best sports towns in America right now is Detroit. At number 4, Booner's Dog of the Week, sponsored by Real American Beer. The legend. I don't know why Jeff picked this picture out, but a legend. The best player to ever play at his position, in my opinion. The best wide receiver of all time, Kelvin Megatron Johnson. Detroit Lions own. Just got inducted into the Pride of Lions over the weekend. Just had to get a shout out. He's an absolute dog, so I have to give him his shout out. Put him in here for this week. Number 3, the one and only. You see him right there. Jared the Dog Goff, baby. He is number 3 after what he did on Monday night. Guys, he deserves respect. Everyone was going at him for 3 weeks. This man deserves respect. Put respect on this man's name, please, and thank you. That's all I have for Jared Goff. Absolute legend. Number 2, I don't know why Jeff used this picture as well, but at number 2, Dog of the Week, sponsored by Real American Beer. NFC Defensive Player of the month, not year, Aidan Hutchinson, baby. The Dog of the Week, the second one. He deserves that, guys. He has been unbelievable. You guys know me. I think right now he's the best player in all of football. In the entire NFL, Aidan Hutchinson is the best player. So I am going to roll with him as number 2. And number 1, I would be very dumb not to put this at number 1. But getting the award this week, maybe we'll send them like a beer trophy. Getting the award, the number 1 Dog of the Week, presented by Real American Beer. The Detroit Tigers, the Gritty Tigers, baby. AJ Hinch and them, they win this week. They win this week. They might win it next week. If they continue to win, they might get it next week as well. I think they were number 1 last week, so they're the reigning champs. Shout out the Detroit Tigers. Shout out AJ Hinch, all of those guys, what they've been doing. And you know what? That's a great transition, Jeff, to our man, Raj, coming on today. Let's go, baby. The Detroit Tigers, baby.
Hey, boom.
The Gritty Tigers.
That is an absolute elite
Shout out Real American Beer, too, with that.
list
Shout
of
out.
dogs. Detroit sports dogs. I mean, we got some guys. Hey, there's some guys that are dogs that aren't on the list. I mean, one of is, Raj, who's going to be joining us here. So please welcome to the show, the man, the myth, the legend, our guy for all things Detroit Tigers, Mr.
Here we go.
Rogelio Castillo. Look at him. Look at this.
Gentlemen, I really want to that real American beer, like Boomer. I want to run through a damn wall and just crack open a beer while doing that, and just
let's go, Raj.
Like when you see AJ Hinch getting covered in beer. I was thinking to myself, like, okay, maybe real American beer right now wouldn't be exactly because they've been getting doused in beer so much. So maybe like a nice wine or like a little bit of a brandy or something right now, maybe something a little classier because he went to Stanford, so Hinch is used to the finer things in life, if you will. So, but no, I'm sure that the beer champagne baths never get old.
Oh, hey, you got to get down and dirty sometime, Raj, and celebrate those wins.
Down and dirty.
Real American beer, baby.
Got a little down and dirty. Hey, Raj, I gotta pick your brain. You had a hell of a week. Tigers taking down the Astros. You have AJ Hinch facing the Astros, and we brought it up to yesterday when we talked about it. And this is the thing that I brought up. I want your opinion on it, and then we'll talk more about what's to come. But just your reaction to the series itself. I mean, it was electric. And honestly, I learned a lot more about playoff baseball, Raj. I'm not going to lie to you. It's an electric time of the year. I cannot deny that, Raj. But it is kind of nice. They have the Lions finally winning a playoff game, and since the 90s, and you get Jared facing his old team, and then you have the Tigers now winning a series for the first time in like a decade, and you have AJ Hinch facing his old team that he was a manager for. What do you think of that, and just the win itself, and what the Tigers did?
Well, I think the reason why everybody's rallying around the Tigers is because they stopped Houston's 7-year run of getting to the ALCS, and everybody's relieved for it. So that's the national headline right there. The other part is watching people who have no idea about Tiger baseball just kind of like make up these really dumb narratives. It cracks me up a little bit. Like, oh, the Tigers payroll. Oh, wow. And it's like, if they just did the simple thing, well, they have 12 rookies on there. I mean, it's a team that if you're doing your show, if you're doing your prep, you can realize this is the youngest team in the majors. So some of these narratives have been funny. It's good to be in the national spotlight. Don't get me wrong, but these guys have full-time jobs, and guys, we do this part-time. We wish this was our full-time job. You get paid millions of dollars. You want to go out there and maybe look a little better on national TV when you're broadcasting about the Detroit Tigers. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it was bad.
That's a little
audio
bad,
issues.
Yeah, the audio issues they sound like they're underwater or toilet or something. But no, it's. I think what we saw here too was another example of AJ Hinch just out managing, outclassing the Houston's manager. The Ibanez thing. That's the thing right there. He pinched hit for him, and you bring in a guy who if you look at the history, Hader, he had a double off Hader in the same exact spot. And I think it was at Comerica. So it just Joe Espada was outclassed by by Hinch, and you would think that you would see a little more instinctiveness from him because they work together, and it wasn't the case. But there's so many unsung heroes too, like Sean Gunther coming in and getting some clutch outs, and Brant Herger just his velocity increased a little bit too. So they talk about pitching chaos. That's exactly what it was, and I think that was. I had a feeling they were going to win the series anyways because it was just after that Parker Meadows home run, I felt like it was just like this. Okay, so now they can relax a little bit. And you saw it was the Tigers it was just a matter of time before they got back in the game.
Yeah, and Raj, one thing that at least stands out to me is now that it's going from a 3-game series to a 5 with the pitching and everything. How do you think AJ Hinch is going to handle that? Like, what does this look like? Because I haven't, obviously, early in the season, like, what was going on with the Tigers, I wasn't as dialed in, but now knowing kind of the way that the pitching staff works and all of that, when you move to that longer series, there's maybe there's a chance Skubal can go 2 games if it gets that far. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, how is AJ Hinch going to handle that in this whole pitching situation?
Well, I think that if you can have Skubal go game 2 and give him that full rest a little bit because they'll be playing Monday. By that point, it'll be his 5-day rest, and you still haven't seen Reese Olson pitch. You still haven't seen Casey Mize, and so of course they might bring out Kader Montero on this version of the roster because they might just change the roster again. And so with Cleveland, the interesting thing about Cleveland is you look at that top of the order. Steven Kwan's been banged up a little bit, but one guy who does scare me a little bit is Kyle Manzaro, who came up towards the later part of the year, He came over from a trade from Tampa. That's a name that you should look out for because he's a guy who really has been able to swing a hot stick. And of course, Jose Ramirez, just walk him every time, essentially. I mean, all jokes aside, this guy almost had if it wasn't for a rain out, he would have had a 40-40 season. I guarantee you. And that's impressive nonetheless. But as far as pitching matchups go, you can see them using an opener, then maybe going to Olsen on Saturday, then Monday seeing Skubal go. And then as far as coming back to Comerica, that's to me, I'm just kind of curious if he's going to go, if they're just going to continue to do the pitching chaos or they're going to go to an actual starter at that point, because against Cleveland, there's multiple ways they can attack this. And so I think the most important part is having Skubal on full days rest versus just, they don't really need, as much as like, yes, we want to win now, same time, I think the Tigers have enough pitching depth so far that they can risk him to go game 2 versus game 1.
And Raj, kind of on the flip side of that, you just talked about Cleveland offensively, that could cause some problems. When you look at the Guardians defensively, whether it's on the infield or the outfield, where do you think Cleveland's strengths are that the Tigers could have some struggles with?
That's a good question. And they are very good up the middle. I mean, in terms of Bo Naylor behind the plate's really good. You have Quan's really good in left field, and even, I mean, they have a little bit of an issue with center and field, Lane Thomas, but that infield of Ganera, or I can never say this, Andres Janemez, and you also have Janemez at second base is really good too, and so I think that's going to be a problem for them. As far as like pitching goes, see, it's the bullpen, the Cleveland's bullpen alone. I mean, Class A is talking about getting the Cy Young. You know, we all laugh about that because we all know what's really going to happen. But Cleveland's bullpen can match up really well with Tigers. And even if they decide to go with Tanner Bibby is a guy who I think can pitch really well against Detroit. Matthew Boyd. So weird to think that, but Matthew Boyd's going to be extra motivated. Will he, if the Tigers going to make him look like the Matthew Boyd that allowed 20-something out of home runs a few years ago? Possibly. I'm not really sure. But as far as Cleveland goes, get back to the defense, though, I think that their outfield defense is just as good as the Tigers are. And so I think it's going to be one of those really, there's going to be a lot of close one-run games a little bit, I think. And for the Tigers, for anybody that thinks that Cleveland's going to make a mistake defensively, not going to happen. This is a very, very defensively sound team.
Yeah, and Raj, kind of dating back to the last game, obviously AJ sent Job out there. Were you surprised that he sent him out there, or do you think that was kind of like a test to see where he's at and, you know, kind of see how far they are, really how much they need him and how much they're going to use him moving forward? Do you think that was too much, or did you like the spot of him being tossed in there?
Yeah, I didn't mind that too much. I know some fans were kind of questioning the whole move, but if you look at that inning in its totality, I mean, Houston didn't really do much off him. I mean, it was just a lot of like well-placed balls, and then of course that was the sack. I think it was the sack fly or the bunt. Excuse me. I think that was a test for them, and that's where Hinch. I think Hinch was just kind of seeing where he was at with that, and so if you look at his changeup and the way his changeup usage and fastball, I think he was fine. I mean, he didn't look. He looked, you know, of course he's going to be a little nervous, but I thought he was fine. And I thought that it was an interesting spot. But if you look at somebody like, for example, Casey Mize, Houston's faced him before. They haven't faced Job. So use that element of surprise there. And it'll be interesting to see how he does that against Cleveland too. But I thought he passed the test, really. I thought he did a pretty good job, all things considering. But I'm glad they pulled the plug on him when they did. And he's been doing that all year long, where Hinch picks and chooses his spots for these guys to succeed. And I think that's the case with like Hannafy, for example. Hannafy had a fantastic outing. He went out there and Houston was overswinging everything. And so they're pounding the ball right into the ground, which is Hannafy's forte. That's heavy sinker. And so I think for Job going forward in the Cleveland series, I'm interested in seeing if they're going to use him more as middle relief or towards the end of the game.
And Raj, I want to ask you about this too, just in big picture sense. I mean, we had you on the last we've had you on like checkpoints of this run. And where are you at in terms of your expectations now? Hottest team in baseball over the last 50 games. Now they look good. They ended the Astros streak. I'm just poking you, Raj. I'm seeing if you're going to break. You're a pro. Where are you at with big picture with this team? How far can they take it, Raj?
I really think they can beat Cleveland. I mean, it's
not
going to be an easy series. So I think that the thing is that I've always been leery about teams with a long way off. Cleveland hasn't played since last Saturday. So if the Tigers can get out,
wow,
so think about that for a second. That's a long ass time in baseball. And so I think if the Tigers can win game 1 and then at least if they can split it in Cleveland, I think they have a good chance coming home. But Cleveland has played well in the regular season. But again, the shit doesn't matter in the postseason. But I think the Tigers, if they stick to what they're doing, they could win the series. I really believe that. I think that the vaunted Cleveland bullpen is something to look out for. But if they can get to the starters early on, you can take the bullpen out of the equation. And so, but you have to hopefully Spencer Torkelson can get going a little bit. I mean, he's come up with a couple of walks and everything, and so even Cole Keith, but other guys, somebody else has to step up and hit, and that's my concern right there. Is like Riley Green's still not off to he hasn't been Riley Green yet. Torkelson hasn't had a torque bomb yet. Carpenter, same thing. So you have to he's had a couple hits. Don't get me wrong, but you want some. I would love to see some more extra base power outside of Ibanez, outside of Meadows a little bit. And that's going to be the key for the series. And then as far as like Kansas City, New York goes real quick, look, I think Kansas City can beat New York too. The Yankees at home scare me a little bit, but KC's bullpen's so good. You see how Baltimore just did not do nothing. And I know Judge and Soto and all that, that's a different ball game altogether, but the Yankees seem like they just, I don't know. It would be really wild if the Royals and Tigers face each other in the AL. In the ALD, or I'm not going to get in the ALCS. I'm not going to get myself ahead of that, but crazy shit has happened.
Yeah, Raj, was one thing because I remember last week, I heard a lot of people talking about that they felt like Torque had to be the one to step up, especially in this first series. And like you said, like he had a couple walks, but it wasn't like he stood out completely. Who is someone just at least in this series, especially like for a bat, like who are a couple players you're like they have to step up? We need to see. Is it Torque again this series, or who's that one player that is going to make or break potentially if this Tigers team can get the job done this next series?
I mean, Jake Rogers is a right-handed bat. Has had a pretty good series, but you have to go back to Torkelson again. You have to. It's reason because there's so many lefty bats, and he's the right-handed bat that has to produce. Matt Verling has a couple hits up the middle, and so Verling's done it well. And I think Cole Keith has been having some good at bats, but hey, guess what, man? You need to hit some hits too. And so I think Keith and Torque are two bats that really, if they can get those bats going, that'll make this series a lot easier. I really believe that because you can pitch your way around Riley Green a little bit with the pitchability. Parker Meadows is just going to be doing Parker Meadows things. It's to the point with me with Parker Meadows and comfortability that he might go 0 for 3 one game, but next game he's going to go. He's going to get a hit or two. And so, but those two really, really have to get going in order for the Tigers to overcome Cleveland.
Oh no, I'm good. It's all you, Lucas.
Well, Raj, we appreciate you, man. Coming through even at kind of last minute. I mean, hit you up today and you came. So we appreciate you for that. Good luck. You're going to be, I don't know what.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah. So I will be, I approve, so I will find out, I think I'll find out Monday, but I put my press credentials in for game 3. So I will be more likely at game 3 and game 4 at Comerica. So I was going to try to go to Cleveland, but unfortunately my day job, I'm going to Seattle tomorrow, what's funny, during the conference, we have a conference kicking off in Seattle, and everything starts at 1 o'clock, or rather, when the Tigers go on at 1 o'clock, it's going to be like 10 o'clock, and I'm going to be presenting around that time. So I have to put my phone in upstairs and leave in my hotel room because my ass is gonna be like, oh, it's crazy, you know. It's just gonna keep looking at my phone the entire time, and I can't do the earbud thing either. So I have to wear like a shirt and tie, and I look like a jackass. So I gotta be all professional, but it's all cool and everything. But it's like it comes at the worst time. Sitting there going, great, when's game 1? Saturday. I'm like, fuck. But it is what it is.
Yeah, Roger, you're gonna do a great job as always. Yeah, please, guys, follow him at. Give your ad for the people. I can't remember off the top of my head.
No, it's all Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Rogcast or at Rogcast Baseball, and then please follow the Tigers Minor League Report on Twitter at Tigers ML Report, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. As you guys know, subscribe and like, it goes a long way. Same thing with these guys. And I want a fucking Crunch Time hat soon. So
we'll get you one.
That hat is.
Let's go.
We got to get Roger hat. We got to get Roger.
If Roger approves the hat, that's when you. If Roger approves the hat, that's when you know it. You know it's a good hat because he has a million hats and they're all phenomenal.
I'm sitting there going, I'm looking at the hat. I'm like, that's fucking nice. That's tight. That's nice.
He's got you see 10 hats in the background. He's got a whole hat collection.
Yeah, never ends. Thanks, gentlemen.
Hey, appreciate you, Raj. Good luck. I obviously in Seattle, but good luck also covering the game as well. And I appreciate you as always, man. You do a great job.
Thanks, guys. Good night, man.
You as well. There you go, Mr. Rogelio Castillo joining the program.
Legend.
Being an absolute legend, as always. Drop your questions. We got about 5 minutes left, so we'll try and get to as many as we can before the end of the show.
Hey, Boone, I just want to give you some credit. You called Mike Evans so that it was a lock. He's got 2 of them things.
This game is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
24-17 at the half. That's like an end of game score.
How about those Falcons, Boone? What do you think about them?
I mean, they're down 7.
Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts getting active.
Hey, I said the Bucks win money line. Hey, I had the Bucks winning this. Hey, I don't care what the players are doing. I look at the scoreboard, Klotzy. Bucks are losing. Not how about them Falcons. Man came at me talking about how about them Falcons. I got the Bucks and they're winning.
I'm just asking. I didn't know if you would be a little bit like, oof.
What about you, Klotz?
Yeah, how about them Bucks, Klotz?
No, what about the Falcons? What were you trying to say something? Or?
They're a very fine team. They're a very fine team. I think they're a wild card team in the NFC playoffs.
Ooh, that means the Bucks are going to win the division.
I do.
I'm a little bit surprised that their secondary looked a little bit better than this throughout the first 3 weeks. This first half, Baker's kind of cutting them up a little bit, and he's getting everyone involved. So really, it's the whole defense that's struggling for Atlanta. I mean, really, both defenses not looking too hot.
Hey, this mailbag question is that Max Crosby on the thumbnail? What's up with that? We actually didn't talk about Max Crosby today. What was that about, Jeff? I mean, I just realized that. What was that about? I posted it on social. We didn't have a Max Crosby segment.
Jeff,
you're on the stand.
Hey, Kevin. Gotcha. I got you.
Oh my gosh!
I got you.
No, I tell the doc we don't do clickbait, and we just did it.
Hey, it's not fitting the narratives well.
Making me look bad now.
Hey, well,
dragging my name through the mud.
It happens. And today specifically, I was trying to think of something to put on the thumbnail, and sorry about that, Kevin, but. I just said we're throwing Max Crosby on the thumbnail.
For no reason. We legit did not talk Max Crosby. He wasn't even in our prep today.
I know. We talked about the Raiders thing yesterday, but I was like, why not, man?
I was actually.
Maybe I'm just putting it out in the ether.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
I was texting with Doc, and the Doc texted me actually a couple hours ago. And he sent me an article and said, I have a name as a potential player for the Lions at the deadline. And I thought, Doc, I'm not going to say he clickbaited it, but the main picture is Max Crosby. So I texted him back and said, oh, Max Crosby? And he said, no. He said, no, not Max Crosby. Scroll to the bottom of the article. And I scrolled. So yeah, he used Max Crosby for people to, reel the people in. And then he says, Buda Baker. Bring Buda Baker to the Detroit Lions.
That is Doc.
I told him I'll tell the people because we were talking about the secondary. I forgot to bring it up.
Doc, we just had John. We just said they have the best safety room in the league. And he says, He says, "Give me Buda Baker." Technically, he did get a click out of your ass, though. So,
Well, yeah, he texted it to me.
So you clicked on it.
Well, originally I didn't click on it because I just saw the Max Crosby picture, and I texted back and said, "Oh, Max Crosby," and he said, "No, read deeper." So I did.
Read deeper. Watch film, like you would say. Watch.
Shout out to Doc, man. What a legend.
Yeah, I love him, bro. I love the Doc. Well, let's get to. Well, we'll get to that question in a second. ETN asked this a while ago, so I want to get to NFL MVP through 4 weeks.
Josh Allen, probably. Even though he had a tough game, it's probably Josh.
Yeah, it still probably is. I hate to agree with Booner on this one, but
yeah, I would say Josh Allen for sure. Burning issues. Mailbag, obviously, Hutch is getting paid next year. Who else is getting their bag? Or resign Aleem, CD3, Levi O, Zeitler, JMO, and who do we let walk? That's a great question. That's honestly that could be a whole topic, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll probably. Yeah, I think JMO for sure, but I mean, I think a lot of those guys, obviously Zeitler and CD. I mean, obviously Aleem, because you're gonna have to pay him a lot of money, and maybe even Levi O, depending on how he finishes the year if he stays healthy. I think a lot of these guys you kind of have to wait and see. But I would say right now, JMO, the way he's playing, I think there's no way you let him walk.
Yeah.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, I think Zeitler ends up walking. I don't think Zeitler is a long-term thing. I think you probably draft an offensive lineman or one of these old linemen that you've been, trying to develop. I think maybe one of those guys step in. At least that's the expectation for next year. Or you draft someone or bring in a new free agent that's cheaper. And then Levi O, probably not. He probably might walk, and maybe Aleem too. There's a couple guys you're going to have to pick a couple, or maybe as much as we might not think it happens, maybe some guys end up, taking a little less, knowing hey, maybe I'll sign a 1-year deal. Like a Levi O, he has a good. Actually, I don't think Levi O would. So I don't know. That's interesting. Brad's got some work to do.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's tough. I mean, it would take some time to answer this question, to be honest. I think Aleem we'll see how it trends. I think they want to bring him back though. CD3, they drafted 2 corners. I guess you'd probably want to bring him back. Levi O, yes. Zeitler, no. JMO, I don't know if they give him an extension. He's eligible, but they might wait on JMO. I'm curious how they handle that. So that's where I'm at. But hey, appreciate you guys so much. Great question, burning issues, by the way. Appreciate it.
To be honest, I think CD gets resigned, but
yeah,
that would probably be my number 2 on this list out of for sure. I think JMO's for sure getting re-signed, and I think CD will be there with him.
Hey, everyone at home, appreciate you for tuning in. Even on Thursday Night Football, if you're watching and watching us, man, we appreciate you. So keep supporting. I think we're climbing. We're trying to hit that 10K goal, fellas. We're almost there. We got about 500 more, I think it was, something like that. So we're on our way. Again, get your merchandise, officialctsports.com, and until tomorrow, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we'll catch you then. Until then, see you.